And I was good at 18 months.
Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Hey, here we are on a Monday.
Yo.
Jay is out, Earl is in, G. Bush is here as always. We got Mike, Steve, and Anthony behind the glass today. You guys got to get Steve on your Behind the Glass podcast. I think that would be appropriate.
That would be hilarious.
For him to make an appearance.
It would be
You weren't here Friday, but overtime on Friday was Ask Director Steve.
Oh,
Yeah, it
really?
was.
How'd that go?
Steve, I think it went pretty good. I mean, you can't slide over here now, but would you nod? Oh, no, Steve's going to get in this. Hold on.
Wow.
It was good. We had a little Q&A. It was Ask Director Steve. Good stuff.
That was the most aggressive move by Steve in a year and a half on the show. Like, he aggressively went after that mic.
Nah, that's not true. When we was leaving garbage in the studio,
that's
he
true.
was like, "Hey,
But that's off air, he did.
He was like, guys,
Stop leaving all your trash
hit the
around,
all
you
caps.
animals.
First things first, Steve.
Yeah. All right.
Damn.
We got a lot to
All
get
right.
into today, guys. The Browns played their second preseason game last week, and the preseason will come to an end this weekend when they play the Kansas City Chiefs. How much will the starters play? Yes, we're clapping because we're ready for regular
Yes.
season football. 20 days away from Browns-Bengals. 20 days away. As of this morning, the Browns are a 1.5-point underdog. They opened as a 3.5-point underdog. And obviously, Joe Burrow's status still up in the air, although he is expected to play. We're going to talk about the kicking situation, which I think we're all antsy about. We're going to talk about Kyle Brant's comments last week about covering Deshaun Watson. Of course, we'll get to the WKYC softball game that some of us participated in yesterday. I'm still a little sore from yesterday, but I didn't get hurt, so that's a positive. My swing, though, is a disaster. I'm glad Mike videotaped me from behind. I had no clue I was picking up my back leg like an idiot.
you got videotape from behind? That's
Pause.
crazy. Dang, bro.
Did I tell you guys where what? I think I texted you guys.
You
that I
did
said
text us,
pause to
yeah.
somebody in real life.
Yeah. Hey, that was hilarious.
Where was it? I was at the
I think
restaurant, right?
you was at breakfast on Aaron's first day of school.
Yeah, the hostess who was taking my money, she says to me, yeah, just empty it out. Everybody came at the same time. And I said, pause.
Super pause.
And I looked at Aaron, and he smiled. And then she looked at me like, what is he? why
Because
is he
Aaron
talking
get
about?
it.
Yeah,
But, like,
he didn't hear enough.
Yeah,
you
Aaron
know.
gets it.
He's Jewish. Like, he was like, man, who would have known? Like, he probably was like, yeah, that was
Hey,
pause.
remember G's pause moment from the game Thursday? He hit the chat like, Ronnie Hickman got me shaking in my knees.
Oh yeah, like I
Super
was,
pause.
Yeah, super.
Double pause.
I said it was week 2, man. I couldn't even move. Yeah, I said.
By the way, you could see the alcohol next to Earl. He's been getting wasted. It's a thing. We're gonna have to get him some help, I think. He's a
Yeah,
little
man.
out of control.
So
now what's going on with that?
So real quick, man, let me start this. First of all, shout out
Yeah.
to my friend Kiana Coggins. This is from her wine, K. Darling's Wines. I told her I was gonna bring it in today.
So she gets her own.
She got her own
winery?
wine. Yeah, she's had it for a little bit over a year now. So
In Cleveland.
in Cleveland.
That's cool.
I give you the contact info. So shout out to K. Darling Wines. Wanted to bring that in, show some support. This is what I figured we'd do with the wine, right? I'm gonna leave it here in studio. Browns make the playoffs, we pop it.
That's
Cool?
a good idea.
But here's the story
Can't
behind
really
it.
pop wine, Earl.
You
We're
can
gonna
pop-
talk
you can pop
liquor. You
whatever
gotta
you
talk
want.
in the right
You,
terms.
you
you
can pop.
can't.
You can
That's
pop
really-
E&J. You can pop champagne bottles. You can pop
he say
E&J. You can pop whatever you want.
Pop-Tarts.
You can pop Pop-Tarts, Steel 211. But look, so here's here's the story behind it. And this is a name that you all both know, man. Shout out to her dad. She invited me to a fish fry yesterday.
Yeah.
Had a great time. Introduced me to her dad. Her dad is Terry from Euclid. Frequent caller on the barbershop. He's called your show. Huge fan of
Yeah.
UCSS.
Shout out Terry.
So shout out to you, Terry, man. The fish was amazing, man. It came as advertised plus then some. So Had a ball yesterday, and that was that, man. I had a great time. Talked some football with some fans. Always love that, but huge supporters of what we do here at the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
I got to say, I'm offended that Earl and Mike didn't invite me to the Guardians game. I'm offended that Earl didn't invite me to a fish fry. I get invited to nothing here. I had to find out about the softball game by myself. I guess nobody wants me around, G.
Who do they invite?
I don't know what's happening.
I think they invite you more than you invite me.
Who?
Everybody.
What do I get invited to? Nothing. You and I, we don't get invited to anything.
I think it's because they just naturally perceive I ain't coming. Like
Really?
I just think they it's like having giving Jay-Z an award. And they'd be like, well, Jay-Z is no longer going to be here today, but we'll have Earl accept that award for us.
The issue with inviting G is you'll invite him, like, G, I got tickets to the Guardians game on Tuesday. And on Friday, he'll answer, be like, yo, I'm in.
Yeah.
And, like, G, the game was 72 hours ago, bro.
Yeah, that is true.
See,
truth
it's a
there.
reason. I can't be mad.
By the way, I went to Dustin used to bust my balls all the time on the fan about how I would say I'm going to go to high school football and I don't really go. And I've gone to a couple games over the years. But I'm now friendly with the offensive coordinator at Rocky River High School, which, town I live in, obviously. And his son was on my Little League team.
So now you fully in the cult now.
So I'm fully in.
You're fully in the cult, okay.
And so I went to the first home game. We couldn't get, my in-laws were leaving the next morning, so we went out for dinner. But I went to the second half with my son, and they won 55-40 or something like. I don't remember the exact. I think it was 55. So they put up a ton of points. So Rocky River has traditionally been a team that is like a traditional offense, running the ball, old school kind of, high school football offense. Right. But they've totally changed this year because they're not very deep on the offensive. They really only have I don't even know if they have 5 solid offensive.
2 of the possible.
Yeah. But they've got a very smart, athletic quarterback. And they got a bunch of guys who can catch the ball. So they're running a lot of 5 wides, some 4 wides with one run. Their running back did a nice job. I think he had 3 touchdowns. DeMarco, I think is his last name. But the kids played really well. Now, I don't know how good the team is. They're from Painesville, school named Harvey. So I don't know how good they are. I'm not sure if they're – I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they got
shout
their
out to
first
Rocky
victory.
River.
It was weird, though, because I got there at halftime and it was packed. And then the band, Rocky River's got this huge band, and then the band was done and like a third of the people left. It must have been band parents. I don't know. They're like, we ain't sticking around. And it was close at halftime. It was like a 2-point game at halftime. So, anyway, high school football is so big, and obviously in Northeast Ohio.
Was a lot of people there?
It was until halftime. It was pretty crowded, and then it emptied out a little bit.
We was like, we got to go.
Yeah, it was enough.
People were trying to beat the traffic.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing before we hop into the topics today. I mentioned to you guys last week that my best friend from back home was coming in this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's the first time he's visited in Cleveland. He's visited me in Texas, Tennessee, first time in Cleveland. And I've now been in Cleveland for 16, 17 months.
Yeah.
You guys know I'm not from here, moved here. We had a great time Friday. We went to the baseball game. We met Earl on Saturday. Had a fun day Sunday before I dropped him off at the airport. I was so excited to show off Cleveland to him.
Nice.
And for the first time, I think, truly since I've moved here, I felt like a proud Clevelander. Like, I'll never be a through and through, from the bone, born here, Cleveland native.
Yeah.
But this is home now. And
gets
it was
in your
so
blood, this
cool
place.
to, showcase some of the best parts of Cleveland off and for him to kind of meet some of my friends here. Earl, I mean, you talked to him. I came back. I got nachos. I came back. And his name's Chris, him and Earl were dapping each other up, laughing, and I was pretty sure they were talking shit about me. But it's cool, whatever it was. But I was so proud to show off Cleveland in a way that I hadn't been before. And it's an awesome freaking city, man.
Let me address this, because you're an adopted Clevelander. No offense, G, but you know how I go. You from Canton. I'm the true I'm the true inner city Clevelander. Hey, Mike, that's heartwarming, man, because a lot of people have this sour eye towards the city of Cleveland until you actually get here and experience it. Just like every other city, we got our issues, but this is home, man. I'm land-made. You know what I mean? I tell you that all the time. So, Mike, that was touching. Here's the crazy part. His friend was super cool. First time I ever, they was like, yeah, Luke. I'm like, who the hell is Luke? And then it dawned on me, everybody back home calls him Luke. Nobody calls him Mike anything else. They call him Luke. So, I'm talking about Mike and McNuggets. He's talking about Luke.
Man, you one of them catfishers, McNuggets. Let me find out. You better not be on a Lifetime movie, Like, you got a family somewhere in Arkansas.
Arkansas.
You abandoned them to get on TV.
I got no family in
Barely was
Arkansas.
old enough to drive.
I'm only Mike here. I went to a 30-kid elementary school, and there were 6 Mikes, so our teacher was like, we're not doing this. You guys are all going by last names. It just kind of stuck. Earl, before we get in, though, were you and Chris talking shit about me? Is that what y'all were laughing about when I walked back? And if the answer is yes, I will not be offended. I'd be disappointed if the answer is no, actually.
Well, since you are my boss, and I like the opportunities on panel, I like what I do behind the glass. I'm going to go ahead and exercise that Fifth Amendment, right? So I'm pleading it. The Fifth.
Pleading the Fifth.
I'm pleading the
Enough
Fifth.
said.
You want to incriminate yourself?
Yeah, no.
Fair enough. I mean, that is his right.
I can't take
argue
that back against him.
All
But
right,
no, it was
Mike.
cool to see. And we got a lot to get to today. But before we do that, let's remind the good people that we are 20 days away from the start of Browns season. And what we have coming up on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show for the Browns season is unmatched. If you're not already a member, if you haven't already hit that like button today, do us a favor, hit that like button, become a subscriber. They're both completely free. It helps us go a long way, and I promise you some of the things we have in store for the upcoming Browns season is going to blow your mind. So hit that like button, become a subscriber, and stick with the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show for all your latest Browns news. And with that, Bull, let's get to our first topic of the day.
What is our first topic of the day? I don't even remember.
So many good rants. No, Kevin Stefanski was asked yesterday
I
how
forgot
much
what
the
our first
starters.
topic is.
I sent the rundown last night.
Yeah, I
we
know.
had 3
I'm like having a
conversations
brain
about it
fart.
this morning. But
Go ahead.
Kevin Stefanski said the starters are going to play 20 to 25 snaps.
Oh, that's right.
Against the Chiefs on Saturday in the final preseason game.
That's
Is
right.
that the right amount of snaps? Too few? Too many? Should he be
He
flexible?
says 25 plays, but we don't know. He's not going to be stuck at that exact amount. I think, I've never been a big, you have to play guys in preseason. But in the last year, I guess, I'm sick of this being scared to get guys hurt. Now, here's a mistake that guys that I think people make. Deshaun Watson doesn't need to play to prove something to us. That's meaningless. We're not making decisions for the Browns. He needs to play to prove something to himself. Because it appears to me that he doesn't seem like he's ready. Now, again, I don't know. I'm not in Deshaun Watson's head. But that's my impression of the situation. If Deshaun Watson felt like he was 100% ready, I don't think he'd be playing this game at all. But clearly he doesn't, and clearly Stefanski doesn't. So he needs to play enough that he's comfortable, if that's possible, that he's comfortable and ready to go week 1. And I don't think he has to this point, G.
For me, I have a very difficult time rolling into the preseason for all the people involved with my quarterback only throwing 3 balls.
Yeah.
He's only threw 3 passes, right? And I know people can say, okay, well, you got to look. And after that game, I said I was excited about that as well. But at the end of the day, 25 snaps is not enough, man. Like, I need to, if let's see more of DTR's game and him being put in positions to play, right? I mean, I don't know how comfortable I am going into a season where I'm like, okay, well, we don't know if you've thrown the ball. We don't know what Amari Cooper looks like. We don't know any of that. Now, if he wanted to come into the game and say we want to sit certain people, like, all right, Chubb is a running back. You don't need to see that.
Right.
Even if he said, okay, we're not even going to give you Amari Cooper. But, man, would it be great for some of the young receivers to catch the football from Deshaun Watson? Would it be great to see what your offensive line is going to be able to do to look like against a perennial power in the AFC? Sure you should. To me, they should be playing a half. That's usually what it is.
Yeah.
And on top of it, they've even played extra preseason game with the Hall of Fame game, and they still was chilling.
No,
So
I'd like them to play even a little more than half. I'd like him to come out for the first possession of the second half and then shut it down. That's what I'd like to see.
So
Earl?
for me, I want to see them play 2 or 3 series, right? And this is the reason why I want to see 2 or 3 series. Because 20-25 plays, that's kind of vague. A quarter, 2 quarters, that's kind of vague in my opinion. This is why I want to see it. I want to see how the initial drive goes on offense, and then I want to see how they come back out in that second series and respond to whatever adjustments that the Kansas City Chiefs defense make. And if we kind of like get hit in the mouth, then that third drive, I want to see how we respond to getting hit in the mouth. So it's kind of like punch, counter punch. Okay, let's see if you can get knocked down, get up, and then go out there and execute a fluid drive. With you all, I do agree, throwing 3 balls for your starting quarterback in the preseason, that's not ideal. A lot of people are afraid of injuries, but this is the game to where you want to see how the Cleveland Browns offensive chemistry is, how they react to getting hit in the mouth so they can be ready. As you alluded to, we're 20 days away from Cincinnati. I don't want us to get hit in the mouth against Cincinnati and then don't have the mental stability necessary to recover from that.
Yeah.
So against the Super Bowl champions where they're playing their starters, this is the dress rehearsal. Give me 3 strong series. The first series, let me see how you execute. Let me see how you execute once Kansas City makes some adjustments. And if they do adjust and to get the better of you, then let me see how you come back out on that third drive and respond to that.
The possibility that Deshaun Watson would come out of this game before Patrick Mahomes, I mean, think about the absurdity of that. You've got one of, if not the best coaches in the NFL in Kansas City. You've got the best quarterback who just won a Super Bowl, who's won 2 Super Bowls already in 10 seconds in the league. If he's playing more in the last preseason game than Deshaun Watson, who's barely played the last 2 years, with a coach that's proven nothing, that's a problem to me.
And including, you throw in, it's a new system.
Yeah.
It's a brand. We went from running the ball the most out of any team in the NFL, just about, with running play action and things like that. Now all of a sudden we got a new offense. We got young guys that look like they're going to contribute. In this Austin guy, right? I want to see Austin Watkins play with Deshaun Watson. I want to see if he's good. I want to see if Cedric Tillman is that guy when he plays with Watson. I want to give those guys, I want to see more DPJ. I'm confused as to why they got him on ice like he's Michael Irvin. DPJ is not
It is
Michael.
weird. What is going on with him?
Like, there's a lot of people on ice right now that I don't feel like they deserve to be on.
No, you're right.
I haven't seen Ogbo. Where you been at? You made a play the first. It's a lot of dudes on ice right now, and I feel like you could take this opportunity of playing against good. Because I'm gonna tell you like this: that last week against Philadelphia, everybody. This is how all this stuff started, where people was kind of mad and upset, and you got Deshaun Watson coming back. It's because people is trying to make something out of it that it ain't. Mm-hmm. These dudes is out here practicing. Hey, if it's 3rd and long, 3rd and 12, and it's 7-on-7. Well, let's get this right. There's no threat of a pass, a run. There's no threat of a screen or a draw. The quarterback's not going to take off and run. The defense knows exactly what you're going to run because it's 3rd and long period. You're practicing 3rd and over 10, 12 yards. So, yes, if you get some balls knocked down, they're going to know that. But in the game, they're not going to really have that. They don't know what the play is coming. So you got a bunch of people commenting on that, trying to make it a game, right? Well, here's what you do. Just put them in a game and see how they act under game reps.
The bottom line is, in any kind of practice, scrimmage, whatever, the quarterback has no fear of getting hit.
None.
And if the quarterback has no fear of getting hit, it's nothing like a game.
Zero.
In a game, the quarterback knows and has to deal with mentally that he might get destroyed on every single play. That every play there's a possibility he's going to take a hit that ends his career. I know that's extreme, but to some degree, that's what a quarterback has to deal with mentally when he's on the football field. And that doesn't exist in practice. And so it's not the same. It's not that you can't get something. I talked on my podcast last week about the whole preseason, whether it's OTAs, mini camps, training camp, preseason games. It's all part of one giant puzzle, right? We, as the public, only see the games, pretty much, unless you go to practice. But we don't see the film study. We don't see most of the stuff that's part of the puzzle. So this part of the puzzle, though, the scrimmages, these things are all important. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the games, there's nothing else that can simulate a game. Nothing for a quarterback who knows, at least a wide receiver, maybe he's going to get hit in practice. Probably not like a game, but he might get. But a quarterback's not getting hit. They're very careful about that.
This is how I could compare it. I can remember being at media school, right, and being in the studios and doing practice shows. Getting reps in
doing a final.
Yeah, doing my final to get on the radio, right. To just getting those repetitions in. But all those practice shows, it's part of the overall goal to get to where you want to be. But it doesn't always translate to when you're actually live on air and now it's time to go. So I think, including Deshaun Watson, but not just Deshaun Watson, this offense is different. And chemistry matters for everybody, not just Deshaun, but for everybody on that offensive unit. And yeah, you can do film study, you can do all these different scrimmages, you can have all these reps in practice. But until you get out there in the game and actually executing against a different team, then you don't know if the chemistry is truly there or not. So just looking outside of Deshaun Watson, for me, the reason I want to see 2 to 3 series is because I want to see what this offensive chemistry is like, not just for the one series if you have some success, but I want to see what it's like when, they make adjustments and you don't have that type of success. Right. How do you pick it up? So I hear everything you all saying about Deshaun Watson, but I guess for me, I'm looking at totality. The play calling, the wide receivers, the offensive line, Deshaun Watson, who's ever in the backfield. So that's why it's that important to me, because I agree with you. You can't replicate in practice what can happen in the game. You need to be able to play in the game to get that feeling.
I was watching Hard Knocks the other day, and I just, took a look at it, episode 1, and they had Aaron Rodgers talking to Wilson, right? The guy that you drafted first.
Garrett Wilson.
No, the quarterback.
Zach Wilson.
Oh.
So Zach Wilson, they're saying, all right, we're going to just have you we're going to act like the first 2 years don't count. You're a backup, you're learning. So he's still on the roster, and Aaron Rodgers, every single play, is talking to him. So they were going through this play where they had the progression. They was just going over the steps, right? Like, so for people that don't know, when quarterbacks go through play action, every play action has their own rhythm and steps and drop back. So it's like learning how to do a dance. So Aaron Rodgers was like, yeah, you got the dance down, right? You know how to do it. He said, but here's the thing. You got to learn how to do the dance off point. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, no one's going to let you just, your play actions aren't going to be a straight drop back. Sometimes you're going to have to evade a rusher. And he says, by the time you get to this step here, the ball has to be gone. If you take another step, you automatically can only throw it to that receiver because that's the only one left, or you got to take off or throw the ball. So he was explaining to him, it's about the timing of it. It's like if you get pressure, it's going to be a different look. And after you get pressure, theoretically to one side, there's only one receiver you could throw the ball to because of your body placement and where you are on the field. And I thought that was really fascinating how he went through that and was talking about it, because Zach Wilson didn't even know, like, he was like, what's this? Like, didn't even correlate to him. So
it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It really is, because, and you think about it, we talk about rust with Deshaun Watson, which he showed. But rust is really bad timing.
Yes.
Right? And Deshaun Watson had no timing. His timing was completely off last year.
Yep.
And I guess it's harder to bring that back than clearly we all thought, because none of us thought he would have the rust he had last year.
Yeah.
And he still has not played much for 2 years. So play him in this freaking game a lot. I don't know.
I mean, and plus, like, I don't know if I feel comfortable the fact that when he was dropping back, Jedrick Wills and guys were giving up pressure. Like, we say we have a good offensive line, right? But what we really want to say is, from guard to guard, we're really good.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
On the tackles, it's hit or miss. To be honest with you, it's hit. They get lumped into it a lot, and we have a lot of projection. So we'll project that the line is great when you look at the numbers or you look at the film. It's just not very good. So you're hoping it's like that. My thought process is Jedrick Wills is going to have to learn how to play with a scrambling quarterback. He can't grab on the outside. He can't. After a certain point, we talked to Joe Thomas about it. He said it's a big difference between a regular 7-step drop guy than it is with a guy that can extend plays, because you want to hold him up and you want to grab. But usually what happens is defensive ends see where the ball's going, and guess what linemen do? They grab on, and then there's the holding penalty, negating a big penalty. That's a big part of it with Deshaun.
Can I challenge you on that just a little bit?
Sure.
I don't feel like, the learning curve to play with a scrabbling quarterback for Jed Wills should be that extreme. You know why? Because he blocked for Tua, and he blocked for Jalen Hurts when he was at Alabama. So you know how to play with mobile quarterbacks. To me, when it comes to this man, it's all about effort. And to me, I don't see much effort from this dude ever. It's like you're not really invested in being a good left tackle. That's just my opinion. I can be totally off base, but this is what I see from him.
Right.
I go back to the Commanders game. Deshaun Watson takes off for a 10-yard scramble, and everybody's praising the scramble. Chase Young just blew you off the line. I just have a hard time believing that, he can keep Deshaun Watson upright for 17 games. We sit here, Bull, and
Yeah.
we harp on Deshaun got to do this, Deshaun got to do that. He can't do a damn thing if he's running for his life
but you know
every
what?
single play.
Joe Burrow's been running for his life for 2 years.
That's
Good
true.
quarterbacks can overcome that. Good quarterbacks can overcome an offensive line, and the Browns have a much better offensive line than the Bengals did. Bengals has gotten better, but still, like the good quarterbacks can deal with that. You're right. It does seem like there's a lack of effort at times, but G is still right. Even though he blocked for those guys in college, he has not been blocking for a mobile quarterback in the NFL, and he played right tackle in college. He didn't play left tackle.
It's a little
so
different.
so in the NFL, in a way he's become a new player because he's had to adjust to a new position, and he's never had to block for a mobile quarterback at left tackle. So that does make a difference. The little, it's nuanced, but it makes a difference. And in the NFL now, though, as an offensive lineman, most quarterbacks now at least have some mobility.
Yes.
That you got to be ready to do that. Because it used to be there was only a few guys.
Statues.
But
There's only two guys. I'm
how
looking
many
at
statues are left?
There's two, and I could be.
Who?
Mac Jones, I think, is still considered a statue, right? Would you?
I guess. Yeah.
Is he mobile enough?
Mobile enough.
I don't know.
I
Do you
think
consider
move better
CJ?
than
Do you
Dan
consider
Marino.
CJ Stroud a statue?
no, CJ can move. He just
can
refused
move.
to
He
do
just
so.
don't do
No.
it.
I'm
He
just
refused to
asking.
do
I'm not-
so.
Jimmy G.
He can move a little
He can
bit.
move.
That's
Yeah.
it. I mean, Jared Goff, he can move a little. Like no one's.
Now golf is a little bit of.
Goff and Jimmy G
And
are kind of
Bull,
statues,
you're
I
right.
think.
Joe Burrow been hit, and I'm not making
Yeah.
excuses for Deshaun Watson because
Yeah.
before, leading up into 2020, Deshaun Watson had a lot of success,
Yeah.
and at that time, he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL.
That's right.
He had never played behind a great line, so I'm not gonna make excuses that because of the tackle situation that's the end all be all. It's
Yeah.
just that for whatever reason, I just don't have that much faith in Jed Wills being productive. Not because he can't, it just seems like he doesn't want to.
Well, I don't know if he can. I don't know. It's hard to say he doesn't want to. It looks that way at times.
It looks that way.
I think if the Browns felt that way, I don't think they would have picked up his option.
if
if they felt he wasn't given any effort, I agree. It looks that way sometimes.
Well, they have to. They
Yeah.
got options now.
Yeah.
So if trust and believe. If he's getting destroyed,
Yeah.
they got options that are on the bench, name brand options too,
Yeah.
that they can bring in and upgrade.
But they haven't been trying DeJuan Jones at left tackle, which I don't
No.
understand.
They did yesterday for the first time.
Oh, they did?
According to practice reports, he got
Interesting.
10 to 15 half snaps at left tackle.
Did you
Not
see
in
that
the full
picture?
team on team. With him next to Jakeem Grant.
Did you see that picture?
Yeah.
that I
no,
texted you guys?
no, I didn't.
They play the same sport.
We can throw it up there. Hold on.
Yeah,
play
you
the
got to
same
see this
sport.
picture. It's so funny.
By the way, there's I forgot about it. David Njoku. I don't who rests tight ends?
I don't understand. You'd think these guys were superstars the way
Like,
some of these guys get.
these
Kevin
dudes-
Stefanski, he's got to play these guys, man. It's a little.
And
Can I make one point real quick? The one thing we missed, and Anthony's going to put it up on tag board with DeJuan Jones and Jakeem Grant.
Yeah.
And, boy, I think you were just going down this line.
Yeah.
We talk about how good we think the Browns' offense can be this year if everything
They
comes
got a lot
together.
to prove.
We know who Nick Chubb is. He does. If he doesn't see the preseason field,
Yeah, I don't
I'm
care
totally
about
okay. Bitonio, the guys,
Yeah.
the majority of this offense is relatively unproven.
Yes.
And they have certainly unproven together in this system because, frankly, Deshaun Watson played 6 games. It's a new offensive philosophy. They have new weapons. Guys like Njoku, who, despite being paid, have never played at the performance
Right.
that
And it's-
quantifies a top 5 contract
Right.
to this point. Not saying he can't, but to this point. And when I look at how certain teams operate in the preseason, and I side on the air of caution. I'd rather they not play at all, but if they're going to play, you play them. I don't
this
understand
idea
the-
of playing in the side of caution. Like, you can't live that way. You can't
No, I
live
I'm
in
just
your
telling you
fears.
that-
You can't be scared of guys getting hurt. If they're freaking football players.
No, that's my point. If you're going to play them, play them.
Yeah.
The fact I'm going to play on one drive and that's going to make a difference. If you're only going to play 1 or 2 drives,
Yeah.
I
I
said
like that.
don't even play them. If you're going to play them, play them.
It's a
If you're
fair
not,
point.
don't.
That's a fair point. I would rather him. If they weren't gonna play him, they're gonna play him a couple series. To me, I just say don't play him at all.
I disagree with that though, because if he's saying 20, 25 snaps, a couple series can end up being a half depending on the floor of the game. I think you gotta play him. Listen, after this game, you have nothing, no game action until
Well,
you
that's
go
what
up
I'm saying,
against
you gotta play him more.
Cincinnati. So I'm with you. I don't really you can't live in your fears of, Deshaun Watson might get hurt.
Yeah.
This guy might get hurt. It's football. Hell, the first time Deshaun Watson got hurt in his NFL career, it wasn't even in the game. It was in practice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these things can happen, but you got to throw them out there. You got to throw the entire offense out there because it is unproven. And it's going to be unproven until they prove themselves, but it's just about, to me, getting that chemistry and that timing down, and an opportunity against the Super Bowl champions is a great tune-up for Joe Burrow and the
that's
Bengals.
right.
To me, there's a couple guys I don't get it. Delpit has not touched the field all year. Njoku has not touched the field at all. Greg Newsome has not touched the field at all. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I have not seen him.
What is going on? Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand what's happening.
DPJ, it's actually a mystery because do you remember when Tyvus came in and he said Watson looked like Tom Brady after the first practice? He goes, DPJ was making all these catches. I don't need DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Have you heard, not just on this show, but anyone in the city mention DPJ's name once since
I
then?
don't know what's going on.
I'm asking you serious. I don't know. He hasn't played in the preseason. Delpit doesn't seem to be hurt, but he hasn't played. Njoku hasn't played. Granted, the offense with the starters have only played one series.
Jakeem Grant has not played, or Harrison Bryant.
Well, I know the last game.
Brian's banged up. He's not back.
Okay.
Jakeem Grant made some plays.
The last game, Grant Delpit attended his graduation at LSU, so that's why he wasn't there. Now, with that being said, I do agree. This is a guy who I consider to be a breakout player for 2023.
It's a contract year,
and it's like I've not heard. Not saying that I've heard bad reviews, but I have not heard overwhelming reviews for him during camp, or it's like I haven't seen him. And then the Donovan Peoples-Jones thing, another guy contract year with a lot to prove.
The Browns have a bunch of guys being treated like stars right now. What's happening here? Grant Delpit's going to his college graduation? What do you need to go to that for?
Man, listen.
He did. No, I'm not gonna.
I'm not knocking him for that.
Good for him.
I didn't care. Graduating college is a great accomplishment. Actually going to the graduation, who cares? I wouldn't care.
But none of the starters played anyway. Like, that was the game against Philadelphia. None of the starters played, so instead of him staying on the sideline, what benefit does it have?
Just the general sense of guys being given more than they've earned. I said, I don't like that.
If I would rather them just come out and say it, like we're not gonna play starters, so don't even think about it. But here's all I'm saying, and I know a lot of people I haven't jumped on the chat yet. A lot of people may have this type of mentality. Well, it's preseason, they don't want to get nobody hurt. It's not a big deal. Well, listen, hey, that's fine. Like that's like if your mom comes home and tells you, like, hey, listen, did you study for that test?
Yeah.
And you be like, yeah, I study, I'm good. She's like, I'm gonna trust you. You're an adult, but you in trouble if you get a bad grade.
Right.
Now you playing division rivals. I'm watching all these other teams playing. And you got three of the most pivotal games that you're going to have on your schedule starting off. So I don't want to hear not one player say this. Well, we're learning. You guys got to just calm down. What we doing? We trying to learn two systems. We got a new D coordinator.
That's right.
We implementing something on offense. We got to get on the same.
That's
Unacceptable because you had all year to do that. You could have been playing. And by the way, Kevin Stefanski. If players are coming up to you being like, hey, I need some reps. Like we need reps. Like you can't go into the first game against the Bengals, look dry, and be like, well, Deshaun Watson played 22 snaps.
Right. Two things. One, I'm done with Browns fans are champions at making excuses for why their team sucks. I'm not listening to any excuses, especially about rust. I don't want to hear about any of that this year. Deshaun Watson gets no pass. He's got to play well. Yep. He gets no pass. I gave him a pass for last year. I'm throwing it out. No pass for this year. And I don't want to hear about Russ because Joe Burrow's not going to play the whole preseason.
Nope.
He's missing the whole preseason. Now, he plays like crap. He don't get a pass either. Not that we're going to be talking about him. But, I forgot my second point. So, no. My second point real quick was I want to see the defense play against Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yeah.
And the Chiefs, who do have a proven excellent offensive line.
They should not be coming out before Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Nobody.
And final thing, the Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce Instagram videos are the best.
Very good podcast.
There was nothing better. Well, I don't watch the whole podcast, but I see some of the clips on Instagram. They're always hilarious.
Real quick before the fast track, the only player that gets a pass from not suiting up, not being around, is number 24. If you're not Nick Chubb, you don't get no superstar
Yeah, but he
treatment.
doesn't need a pass because we know he's going to play great.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's the only guy.
I'd be tempted not to play Myles Garrett, too. I'd be tempted.
For me, it's just Nick Chubb.
Yeah, for me, it's just Nick Chubb, too. All right, Mikey, what do you got?
Anthony, I know I just said we were going to do a Fanatics read, but instead we have a PCC question here that we're going to do for this one. So for this fast read, let me tell you all about our dear friends over at PCC Airfoils. If you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, well, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. Earl put a question up on the community tab today, asking the YouTube community tab, how long should the Brown starters play against Kansas City in the year's final preseason game? Over 900 votes, 3 options. 64% said 1 quarter and take them out. 32% said 1/2, and 4% said into the 3rd quarter. So
We got too many fans that live in their fears.
Living
in the fears.
Drop that again. You say how many?
64% said
yes, 64,
one
quarter.
I need 2 quarters, bro. I at least need half.
Only 4% said more than half.
I need a half. Man, I need a half, man.
You didn't give an option for none, huh?
We did not give an option for none. I stand by my point of if you're going to play him, play him. If you're only going to play him for a tiny bit,
all right, Mike,
let's
keep it moving here. Joel Bitonio,
Yes, sir.
Kind of a under-the-radar story over the weekend, has his contract restructured. The Browns will save $8 million worth of cap space. Do you guys think this has anything to do with the Browns looking to make another move here? Or I don't think so. They save $7.86 million to be exact, 868. I don't know what move they're making at this point, but I don't know. Is it cap space just for this year and lowered the cap hits in 20?
So the exact numbers. So by converting the salary to a bonus this year, they saved the $7.868 million this season. They also lowered the cap hits next year by $1.5 and $2 million.
Okay.
So it brings it down a tiny bit. And as it stands right now, as of today, on August 21st, the Browns have $22.7 million in cap space. That is the second most in the NFL currently.
Right. Remember, though, the more cap space you have, the more that it rolls over to the following year. So it's not just this year. But go ahead. You think I don't know what kind of significant move is left to make at this point.
I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it. I think that, my first way of looking at it is this is Andrew Berry playing a long game. This is him setting himself up with some type of security blanket for next offseason. There might be a unrestricted free agent next season that the Browns might really have their eye on, and they may be very well preparing themselves for that now. Or the other part of it is I always go back to Andrew Berry's initial press conference at the Greenbrier, and he talked about assessing the team that he put together in April, assessing the team throughout camp, and then assessing the team before you go to the regular season. So the other part of it could be there might be a trade target out there that he's trying to execute, and he wanted to open up more cap space so that he can take on that contract without actually using up all the available cap space that they have now. But either way, I think it's a good move for the Browns, whether it's in the long term or in the short term. So I just think it gives him some long-term flexibility and then some immediate flexibility to make a move to get an impact player if that what he so happen chooses to do before we head into Cincinnati.
Hard to get an impact player this time of the year, G. You think that's what he's trying to do?
Man, it off kilter if somebody get hurt. That might be it, but I think this was what it is. See, I think Joel Bitonio played better than usually people look at the age of 30, right? They look to see if you're going to fall off a cliff. Well, guess what? They're like, well, he's still playing at a high level. I don't see that changing. Let's keep the good offensive line together, save some money. They're going to do the same thing to Wyatt Teller. Hey, dog, we like you. We think you're playing well. If he has a bounce back year, I think they'll do some of the same exact stuff right here, and they'll get a little bit more money. Save $7.868 million in cap space. Well, guess what else is going to save them? There's no way, and you know what, that Jedrick Wills will be a tackle next year. DeJuan Jones has gotten much too much press. He's played way too well, and he's on what is he? He was a 4th-round pick. He's getting 4th-round pick.
No money.
No money.
Yeah.
Jedrick Wills is already getting $15 million.
Yeah.
So that's another $15 million that can come off the books. You plug and play DeJuan Jones. Then you look at it like this. I think they might be able to get out of the. I think McNuggets mentioned this. The David Njoku contract. They believe that they can get out of the David Njoku contract next year without a huge cap hit.
No, I think it was the Ethan Pochich contract because it's a 3-year deal.
It's Pochich. Pochich is a 1-year deal essentially with 2 years
Right.
of bonus.
So, so that's the contract. But I mean, I agree to what you're saying. Like, the Browns, especially if they hit on some of these undrafted free agents and then some of these draft picks, right? Then now all of a sudden you don't have to pay top dollar to 2 guards. You don't have to pay top dollar to this position or that position. So
that's a big if, though.
It's a big if for not just this team, that's for any team. But to me, you got to have cap space for numerous reasons. Like I said, I get it at this point of the offseason, heading into the regular season. It's hard to make an impact move for a player, but never say never. You put yourself in position to be able to do that. You put yourself in a position to be able to make a move before the trade deadline. You put yourself in position to set yourself up for next year. I think any good GM can do 2 things. You can stay in present day with your current team, but you can also plan for the future at the same time.
Is Andrew Berry a good GM?
I think so.
I think
Is that proven?
I think Andrew Berry is good at 2 things. I think Andrew Berry is exceptional at getting trades. I think he's very good at free agency. Where he struggles a bit is his draft picks. His middle round picks have not hit so far, right? But I will say all of it goes into it. Every coach isn't great at everything, right? You could be a great offensive coordinator, but you really don't do a really good job of developing anybody, right? So I think that he's done a great job of covering up for some of his weaknesses, because for every guy that you got on here, look at his receiving core. Donovan Peoples-Jones is number 2 guy, right? He was 6th, 7th round pick. This Austin Watkins Jr., he looks like he's a ball player. They got him off the scrap heap. You take a look at some of the trades they made. Elijah Moore was a trade.
These things we don't know. They haven't we haven't seen it yet.
Yes, but it looks like we like him so far.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
But they got to prove and pay dividends. Now this is the year where it's going to tell whether or not he's a good GM, because he's made all these moves to rebuild this roster.
Right. To me, I'm not ready to say he's a good GM yet.
I am.
He hasn't proven. He hasn't proven. His drafts are subpar.
I am. I'm gonna tell you why.
But would you agree his drafts are subpar?
His drafts has been subpar, but that's not the only way that you can go about evaluating talent. So if we look at the totality of how you evaluate or how you gather talent in the NFL, you do it 3 ways: free agency, trade, draft. Okay, and so to me, the draft picks have been subpar. He has not hit on every single draft pick. We know that. But on the flip side, he's done a great job, in my opinion, the last couple of years, finding undrafted free agents that can have an impact on his team. He does a great job in the trade market finding guys that can come in and have an impact on this team. He does a great job for the most part in free agency finding guys. I thought
who are the undrafted free agents that have made an impact?
That just look at the guys that's making an impact so far this preseason. But I'm not done. But not only that, it's deeper than just gathering talent. If you look across the league, Andrew Berry has hired guys and women that has now went on to gain promotional jobs across the NFL and other areas. And so
wait,
I'm not done. No, I'm not done. I got to finish this point.
I got to jump in. I got to jump in on what you said. You said they've turned undrafted free agents into impact players. I don't think there's any examples of that. Is there that I'm missing?
I will have to go through it, but if you look at, let's stay current day, right? You got some guys that were not drafted that looks like they can make an impact on this team.
But no,
you look at the trade. But you look at the trade. You look at how he brings in talent via trade. All I'm saying is, and it's not like every draft pick has been bad.
What's the talent he's brought in through trade? Give me the good trades.
Ethan Pochich, for example, last year.
Okay.
Just for example, last year. So wait,
go ahead.
And then you look at the fact that he might not have hit on his draft picks.
Yeah.
But in the same time, it's not like we've had many draft picks because of the trade we made for Deshaun Watson. I'm just saying that to me, it's a lot that goes into being a good GM. And I feel like Andrew Berry is a good GM in its totality.
I don't think you've really given a good example.
But we can't just say, his drafts has been subpar, so he's not a good GM.
Been.
But
But what has he done to make up for it?
You
You said undrafted free agents. There's nobody to this point.
There's 2 undrafted free agents since Andrew Berry's here that have made the roster.
Who?
A.J. Green, the cornerback.
No impact.
And then in 2021, DeAnthony Bell, the safety.
Yeah, so they've had none of the undrafted free agents to this point have made an impact.
I'll give you this. To me, I got him at he's above average. I haven't met above.
See that yet?
And the reason why I say above average is because yes, you missed on Schwartz, you missed on Bell. Some say you missed on Harrison Bryant. Some could say that you missed on what's the kid from Washington? The center.
It's not even just to me, G, the draft picks. It's that the team hasn't won.
Okay.
That's the bottom line.
That's a part.
That's the bottom line. The team hasn't won. The Deshaun Watson. I love the Deshaun Watson trade. I think it's going to work out, but if it doesn't, that's on him.
So here's why I will say when you say trades.
Yeah.
One of his biggest trades, he got Amari Cooper for free. That's huge.
Great trade.
Huge trade. He got Zadarius Smith for free. Huge trade.
That wasn't that a free agent signing?
No, they traded for Darius Smith, and even though he hasn't played yet, that's a win on paper. That's a win on paper.
It's not huge yet because he hasn't played yet.
Well, you got to look at it. Most people would say that Zadarius Smith is going to be a great player for the Browns.
There's a reason the team gave him away.
Because they had no money.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook.
I'm just saying, we can't call a move a great move until it's proven to be a great move.
But if he got him for free, like if you tell me I could get him for free, you'd be like, oh, listen, that 32-inch TV may not be 1480p. It may not be, but it's only 720. But you get it for $20.
Poach's trade was a great trade.
Poach's trade. So
Cooper was a great trade.
Cooper was a great trade.
At the end of the day, and I want to get back to Bitonio here because we're kind of getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
If Deshaun Watson turns out to be really good, we could look at Andrew Berry and be like, he's made some moves that have led to winning. If Deshaun Watson doesn't turn out to be very good,
if Watson ends up being the player we expect him to be, then that overcomes the mistakes he's made. But to this point, I mean, at best, you put Andrew Berry middle of the pack.
Yeah, I would say that.
You can't put him ahead of any of the other GMs in this division at this point.
I would say that's why I say above average. But he has everything about the Browns this year has a ceiling, right? Everything in the Browns has a higher upside, right? Because now we have them, middle of the road when it comes to evaluating talent or general manager. But guess what? If their players play to what they traditionally have done, the Browns have a really high ceiling to say, wow, they guys made some crazy moves. Because guess what? They have the guys on paper. They got the guys. Like the guys that they've brought in. Dalvin Tomlinson, he's a guy. Listen, I like Thornhill. He has good pedigree. Listen, they've done some things. They've even done a good job of going to get the defensive coordinator, who I think will make a lot of people better. But I could understand both sides. I can understand you saying, no, he's a good GM because I'm projecting those players to be good, and they have been.
If you think some of these guys from this year that are undrafted and they make an impact this year, that's a great job. But
it's not just that. It's not just that. Like, you're saying that Zadarius Smith hasn't proven it, but Zadarius Smith was traded for because he has proven it to this point in his career.
Correct.
So,
but the reason the Vikings gave up on him because obviously they
couldn't pay. No, they traded him because they couldn't pay him.
The same Dalvin Cook.
It wasn't like the other teams were banging down their door.
I'm not saying that I'm not worried about other teams. But I'm saying the Minnesota Vikings could afford it.
You can't say a trade is good until you know it's good for your team.
But in my opinion, it's a good trade for our team because this is
projecting.
It's a good trade for our team because this is a guy that can play opposite of Myles Garrett, and based on his recent history success, then we're projecting him to have success.
Agreed.
Everything is projection, though.
No, it's not.
Anytime that you acquire a player via free agency, via draft, or via trade,
agreed.
Everything is a projection.
But so far, what he's done in the last 3 years, we already have some proof on the field. And based on what he's done in his first 3 years as GM, what he's done this offseason, we all like what he's done on paper, and we like the upside of this team. But what he's done in the first 3 years as GM, to me, is at best an average job. What he's done this offseason, we like it, but there were things I'm sure we all liked last year that didn't turn out.
The Zadarius Smith move was such a low-risk, high-reward move.
What's that?
The Zadarius Smith trade was such a low-risk, high-reward move that even if Zadarius Smith does half of what he did last season, production-wise, which would be 5 sacks, giving up a 6th-round pick for a guy who can contribute.
But that wasn't like some great. It wasn't like a brilliant move by Andrew Berry that you know what I mean. Like
I think it was. If you could get,
I'm with these guys in this one, Bull.
If
all right, I'll give you the Zadarius. If we make you happy,
the Shelby Harris move was great. Shelby Harris was one of the top-ranked defensive linemen, and he got him for a 1-year free agent deal. Dalvin Tomlinson was their best free agent. I'll give him this. I'll give him this. I was mad at Andrew Berry last year because I said he punted on the season. And when you look at what he did, the Browns organization did. They didn't bring in receivers. They didn't bring in any defensive linemen. They got eviscerated on defense. And guess what? They looked at themselves in the mirror and said, you know what, we better get this fixed.
And the reason they've had to spend so much in free agency is because of all the mistakes in the draft.
And yes, and they made a lot of mistakes with Togiai. Taven Bryant wasn't a good signing. Jordan Elliott looks like he's not bringing anything to the table.
Nope.
The Jadeveon Clowney thing fell apart last year. Trust me, like all those moves are there. Like I said, I got him right now at above average. I would call it a B minus. B minus, C plus, anywhere in that area.
Yeah.
But if those guys show up and play, especially the one-year guys, and Deshaun Watson comes out and does his part, I think that he can catapult himself into a new contract just like Stefanski can.
Absolutely.
I'm not, and it's not like I'm making it seem like Andrew Berry is the greatest GM in the NFL. All I said was I think he's a good general manager.
I think you got to have a winning record. Don't you have to have a winning record to be a good general manager? No.
I mean, you can only do what you can do. So let's just use this one particular player, for example, right? When at the time the Cleveland Browns signed John Johnson to come play safety, John Johnson, according to PFF, was the third highest rated safety in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, his intention as a general manager as signing him, I'm getting a guy that can help the Browns defense. But Andrew Berry can't control what Joe Wood's assignment is for said player.
But that's the same thing for every player
That's
on
the
every
same
team.
thing for every player
That's
on
it.
every
He's
team.
on your record.
So
It was a
I guess what I'm
failure.
saying is you're making my point.
Yeah.
That's a good signing that just
No,
didn't
it's
work
not.
out. It didn't work out. It didn't work out because it was a bad signing.
No, it was a bad signing because it didn't work out.
It didn't work out because he wasn't used properly.
I don't buy that.
See, I'm back on both sides here. I was on Earl and G.
no.
I'm back on both with that last
It's a bad. The guy doesn't work out. It's a bad signing. That's it.
But is it a bad signing because the guy at that time was not worth the contract that he was given to come play here, or did it end up being a bad signing because the defensive coordinator did not put him in a position to have success?
Well,
I think it's on Berry
You knew who
to
the
have the
defensive coordinator
conversation
was
with
when you
Joe
brought him
Woods
in.
to know how he
I
plans on
disagree,
using
Mike.
him, whether or not he's
That's on
supposed to
Kevin
fit.
Stefanski. That's Andrew Berry stepping outside of his lane.
Let me ask you, who decides on the defensive coordinator? Is it the head coach or the GM?
Should be the head coach. He puts together the coaching staff.
I mean, the
It
head
should
coach,
be the head coach. I don't know
It's
who it
usually
is.
the head
It
coach.
should be the
Who
head
knows
coach.
for sure what it is with the Browns?
Well, if he's not being put in the right position, that falls on Kevin Stefanski.
John Johnson's just not a good player. I mean, let's face it.
I don't think he's a very good. I don't think he's a very good player.
Yeah.
However, I will say this. That's why I'm anxious to see this season.
Yeah.
Because I want to see you will now this year get an opportunity to see whether or not it was the players last year or was it a situation with the defensive coordinator. My thing is, I believe it was a defensive coordinator. I don't think John Johnson is a top 5 player at this position. However, some of the things that they were doing last year had me looking around like, and when they said that about the Bengals, and they told me that they had a much harder time because Jamar Chase T. Higgins wasn't playing. I said, what do you mean? That's one of their guys down. What do you mean? Actually, it was worse for us, G. Bush. We had a guy out of the game. And I said, bro, I started looking at them all different at that point. Now, we'll get an opportunity to see it, but there is a thing. One hand washes the other. To be a good general manager, you have to have a great head coach. To have a good head coach, to be a good head coach and be successful, the general manager has to give you the ingredients, right? It works hand in hand. This is a year where we're going to actually have an opportunity to see, because a lot of people say, some people say Andrew Berry is a better general manager than at his position in his job than Stefanski is a coach.
I think they're both, till proven otherwise, mediocre, which is certainly better than what the Browns have had.
What grade would you give them? GM and the coach.
At this point, I give them both a C.
I'll give them both a B. Kevin Stefanski has
You
already.
gotta win.
But here's the thing. I understand that you have to.
You can't be a B
listen,
if you don't win.
But Bull, I'm not disagreeing with you. You do have to win.
Yeah.
But Kevin Stefanski has won at least 7 games every year.
7 games don't mean
Bull,
shit.
can I please finish the point?
But 7 games don't mean shit.
Can I finish the point?
You said
Can
your
I
point
finish
was
the
7
point?
games.
Can I finish the point?
Go ahead.
He's won 7 games for the Cleveland Browns since he's
Meaningless.
been the head coach. That's the
So
most.
you're grading them on a sliding
That's
scale.
the most that no other coach has been here since '99 that can say that. He's won Coach of the Year. He took the team to the playoffs for the first time in 20 years. He's won. Has it always been the best version of winning? No. Has Andrew Berry got every single signing and draft pick right? No. But you're talking about like this year, he's been given the ingredients. Last year, he was given the ingredients. We've been walking around for 2 or 3 years saying the Browns got one of the most talented rosters in football.
Earl, you are grading him on a Brown scale.
I don't agree.
I gave him a B. I didn't give him an A.
B is a great grade. They haven't done shit.
You can't say they haven't done shit.
They won one playoff game.
But you can't say they haven't done shit. That's
one
something.
playoff game is not doing shit.
When's
That's not the goal.
When's the last coach to win Coach of the
That's
Year?
irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant because
Earl.
I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns. I'm not talking about in the landscape.
You can't compare it on a Brown scale.
NFL. Why not? What else do we got to compare it to?
Because you got to compare it to good teams.
But I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns. If I'm looking at Cleveland
for the Browns' history, it's not in
he's
the
the best
NFL.
coach that we didn't had since we done been back in '99.
That's fine.
It's the best GM we done had since we done had in '99, and they done both had success.
You don't think there's 15 GMs better than Andrew Berry in the league right now?
I don't know all the GMs to say that.
Here's what I would say.
Last point, G, then I got to move on.
I will say this. Kevin Stefanski has done some things to prove himself in the league. A lot of people think he's a great play caller. A lot of people say, well, look, when he had something, he did something with Baker Mayfield, and he did the best of his knowledge. I can't give him a B because, to me, a B means good. I need to see something more. Like, they came in last place last year. And for me, this year is a make or break because he has yet to show the consistency that we would like to see. We want to be consistently a playoff team. And when you look at, I would give him, if you told me Stefanski, I'd give Stefanski a C+. If you ask me about Berry, I would give Andrew Berry C plusish. Like, I can't say B. You could twist my arm and say B- based upon some of the names he has. But for me, that's still both of them was under a 2.7. That's not that's merit roll. That's not honor roll. Yeah. And for me, the guys I call good are the top guys, the Shanahans of the world. I think Andy Reid is top notch. I think Mike Tomlin is top notch. I think Harbaugh. Those guys to me would exemplify what a B coach would be. C, they can move up. Like I said, there's some wiggle room there. I will be open to moving it up. They got an opportunity with the team they got to move up to a good after this season.
Yeah, I think that potential is there. I agree with you. But until they win more than one playoff game, as a trio, they have an overall losing record, or as a tandem, they have an overall losing record and one playoff win. It's not enough.
Last point before we move on. Yes or no answer, no more than one word each.
Yeah.
The money they opened up from restructuring Bitonio's contract, which is where this all started, will they sign another player with that money before the start of the season, or will they use it to roll over into next season? Bull, yes or no?
No.
G?
No.
Earl?
No.
We're no's across the board.
No's across the board. All right, moving on, guys. When you are watching Browns game this year, you better be wearing Fanatics gear and having your swaggiest Browns attire on. And if you go to www.fanatics.com/UCSS, you will have all the best options for Browns apparel for the upcoming season. And when you use that link, fanatics.com/UCSS, it's in the chat. It's on the screen right there. You will help us get a little kickback on the back end. So help support us by supporting you by looking extra swaggy this season in Browns games. We got two more things we have to get to before we talk about the softball game this weekend for the last 10 minutes. We're going to get to the Kyle Brant rant and the reaction to that in a sec. But first, over the weekend, I was trying to think about the whole Cade York situation, trying to digest it, look at it from all angles. And something I wasn't positive about when I was looking at this, and I'm curious how you guys feel. No, I'm not asking what should the Browns do, what do you want the Browns to do, what you think they will do. I want you to go into Kevin Stefanski's mind, put on your head coaching hat for a second. If you were the head coach of the Cleveland Browns in this situation, knowing your kicker could cost you games, can win you games, can lose you games, so many games come down to 3 points in the NFL, and you have a guy who you may not personally trust, the teammates, his guys in the locker room may not personally trust. We don't know that. I'm just speculating. How do you handle putting Cade York's feelings and potential lack of confidence and not bringing in competition above, on par, in the same realm with the other 52 guys on the roster? How would you handle the situation they're currently in if you were Kevin Stefanski?
Earl, go ahead. Get us started here.
For me, I would definitely bring in kicking competition. You all hear me say all the time, iron sharpens iron as one person better than another. And I just don't believe that you can become better at your job, no matter what your job is, without competition, without somebody pushing you. So to me, the fact that he has struggled and they still opt to not bring in kicking competition, it's a little odd. I don't agree with it, but there's always a flip side to everything, right? Kevin Stefanski might be viewing this situation as, I've seen Cade York way more than you all. Boy, you led us off talking about that. There's so many different variables to the offseason, to training camp, and we only see one or two of them. He sees all of them. But that doesn't mean I agree with it. I think he's tripping, not bringing in kicking competition, because we're talking about a kicker who was drafted in the 4th round. His name slips me, but the Bengals kicker, right?
Evan McPherson.
This is a guy that was drafted, had instant success. And fans will push back and say, well, Justin Tucker struggled. These other kickers
struggle as a rookie.
I know he didn't, but they say that like certain kickers struggled as a rookie, and that's true that they do. But the Browns drafted him in the 4th round, in my opinion, because they believe that they got instant return on investment, and so far they haven't. And so if you want to say Cade York is your guy, he can be your guy, but you still should do some due diligence to this entire team, bring in some kicking competition, and push Cade York to get better.
There's a couple points. I'll try to be brief as possible. Cade York, the competition is over. The time to bring kicking competition is in OTAs, throughout training camp, and they would have a kicking competition every day in practice. At this point, if you bring in another kicker in, that signals that guy is eventually going to be the guy. The competition part is done. And that just goes to show me that they're not going to cut Cade York. That's not going to happen. We just got into a long debate and a long heated debate about fourth round picks. How many guys did you miss on? And if you're the general manager, you're not about to get rid of this dude immediately and say, I'm screwed up on another 4th round pick at a kicker. That's just not going to happen. And when I talk about people being political in nature, when you talk about where you're drafted or how much money you got on a free agent deal, that's political in nature. It doesn't have anything to do with how good you are on the field. Cade York, if they brought another kicker in, would not be as good as some of the veterans they brought in, which would signal he's out of here. What you then have to do is say, all right, well, if they're not going to get rid of him, and you're Coach Kevin Stefanski, how would you handle the situation? Well, you handle it by this. You go in and you talk to Deshaun Watson, and you meet with your offensive team and captains and your special teams coach and say, listen, right now Cade does not have the confidence we want, just like any other young player. We can't throw him to the wolves. We're not going to be kicking 60-yard field goals just at the end of the half. If it's going to be 3rd and 3, we're putting it on the onus of Chubb, on the onus of our best players, and that's Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun, listen, sometimes we're going to give you some play calls, and it's going to be, hey, get a certain amount of yards here so you can be fourth and manageable, and we'll go for it. Stefanski is already going for it the most out of any other coach. He likes doing it. So you just put the expectation, hey, look, at the end of the day, it's just like high school. Inner city teams don't have kickers. We go for 2 all the time, right? It is what it is. So here's a situation where you may not have a guy that you're going to be able to line up from 55 with any confidence. I'd rather put the ball in Deshaun Watson's hands and say, let's go make a play. Because at the end of the day, until he gets his confidence, he's not making that. I'm sorry. Everybody in the stadium know that.
Yeah.
So put your team in a better position.
Y'all know doggone well Coach Ginn got a kicker. That might be the only inner city school.
And it took him 25 years to get one.
I guarantee you Glenville got a kicker. He probably a 4-star recruit.
Man, when Glenville came down here, we was like, dang, bro, they got a lot of running backs. Where the kickers at? It's like, if we ain't got none of that yet. We're going to just be going for 4th and 10.
Yeah. So I think G just clarified everything for me right here. Because I've really been struggling with this question. When Cade York missed those 2, and you know me, I'm very dismissive about preseason. Mm-hmm. The only thing I pay attention to is the kicker. Because the kicker, what's the difference if it's preseason or regular
None.
season? If anything, it should be easier because, in a way, there's no pressure because if you lose the game, who cares?
Right.
But there's nothing different. Your opponent doesn't matter when you're kicking a field goal.
No.
All right, first of all, this whole nonsense about the punter being to blame is complete nonsense.
Yeah, that's a talking point.
I don't want to hear about this anymore. If that were the case, they would have put another guy in there to hold. I'm sure one of the backup quarterbacks could hold, a freaking wide receiver could hold. They'd find somebody. Okay?
Dave Zastudil said what he said on the internet, and they keep trying to tell Dave Zastudil.
Yeah, exactly. Regular fans are telling Dave Zastudil. I'll go with Dave Zastudil on this.
They're telling Dave Zastudil and Jay Feely that they don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
And they do.
Yeah, so that conversation is over. But
That's so funny.
I have been all weekend going back and forth on, like, what do? You drafted him in the 4th round. He made that game-winning kick against Carolina. You lose that game if it's not for the kick. But the back end of the year, he was terrible. You look at his numbers. Can you bring up his numbers from last year? Again, the field goals. So if you look at the field goals, he made, I think it was 75%, right? So he made 75%. But if you look, that's the total.
He was 24 of 32. He was 75% on the season.
But remember, he made his first 8 field goals.
Yeah.
So that means he was 16 of 24 after that,
Man.
which is 67%. 75's not good. 67 is horrendous. There's part of me that's like, clearly this guy's got a big leg. I want to give him a chance to pull it together. But it's not like any other position in football. You can't keep him as a backup. Nobody wastes 2 roster spots on a kicker. Like, that would be the perfect solution.
Yeah, just go get another kicker.
You can't do it.
But you can't do it. And so I'm going back and forth. And then G just made it very clear. He said it's all politics. You're right. If Cade York was undrafted, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
If he was some schlep-dick free agent that had bounced around from team to team, he'd be gone.
Bye-bye.
So the reality is the Browns probably should replace Cade York. They probably should bring in Robbie Gould.
Yep.
Robbie Gould has hit big kicks.
Yesterday. They would do it yesterday. It's not that difficult.
And let's face it, I need a Jewish guy on the Browns. I don't have one. There's no Jews on the Browns.
So they got rid of affirmative action.
I don't care about that. I'm kidding. But,
So Bull, do you think it's stubbornness? I mean, it's politics. It's stubbornness, basically, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you won't even bring in kicking competition because you're afraid as an organization that the kicking competition you bring in will outkick Cade York, and now you got to go look in the mirror.
Or,
and say,
you're
hey,
worried about his psyche and how he's going to handle that.
But you can't worry about that.
But G is right. If you bring in a kicker now, it's to replace the kicker you had. At this point, there's no competition. You're only bringing in a guy if he's replacing your guy. But I don't think they're going to do that.
No.
But if there was part of me saying, well, let's see how he does in the regular season. But if he cost him a game early, that might be the difference between the playoffs and not.
To me, this is the craziest part. And I said this to Earl off camera, I think Friday or Thursday. Kevin Stefanski has an Ivy League education.
I remember.
Regardless of what you think of his head coach, he's a smart guy. A very, very smart individual. He understands, in my opinion.
Ivy League education does not make you smart.
Okay, for the sake of this, he's not struggling to put
makes
two
you
and two
educated
together.
if you actually graduated. Doesn't make you smart.
I do think Kevin Stefanski is a pretty smart guy. I do personally. Whatever. He's an Ivy League education.
I just don't like the insinuation that if you went to an Ivy League school, because I know people that have gone to Ivy League schools that are not that smart.
And you know what? So do I. And I know people who haven't gone to college who are very, very smart.
Yes.
But theoretically speaking, the man has an Ivy League degree.
He's very smart.
He should be smart. Yes. I have a hard time believing that a guy who I view as that smart, who understands so much about football, would be willing to risk his job future on a kicker because they drafted him in the 4th round.
Cognitive dissonance, Mike.
Seriously.
Cognitive dissonance is not a thing that affects just dumb people. Everybody, you could be educated as hell. I was watching a documentary with guys that have physics degree that still think the world is flat. So, like, they know, you're supposed to know. What happens is, when you're too close to the action, Mikey, when you've had your hand in hand-picking a person, and you stake your career on it, after you get so far down the road, and I'll give you an example. You buy a car, you think you love this car, it's your first car that you got, and then they say, listen, all right, the brakes go bad, you put more money in it. Then the engine goes bad, you put more money in it. Then the starter goes bad, you put more money in it. Pretty soon you have more money in repairs than the car is actually worth.
Yeah.
And then what you'll do is you'll say, well, I done rode it this far.
Yeah, I might as well keep going.
I might as well keep going. And that's how it happens in life. I done rode it out this far with Cade York. He missed kicks last year that could have cost us. He's missing kicks in the preseason. But now I'm just going to wish up on a star. Yeah,
but I'll tell you, even though I'm a guy who loves going for it, you know me. One of my favorite things about Stefanski is that he goes for a lot of 4th downs. But if you're right that he's going into the season saying, hey, we don't trust our kicker, so we're going to – that puts the Browns at a major disadvantage.
Huge disadvantage.
In a conference and a division that is loaded with talent.
You know what that gave it to me was? Because when it was in a game, there was in the 3rd quarter, Kellen Mond was in the game. and it was 4th and 4, inside the 40-yard line. He trots out Kellen Mond when it's a great opportunity to kick a field goal to test Cade York because he hasn't been performing.
Yeah.
You know what they did? They trotted him right back out there in 4th and 4 in a preseason game and threw the ball to Anthony Schwartz.
Anthony Schwartz had like 14 targets.
And
He had 10
so think
targets,
about
yeah.
that. They would rather target Anthony Schwartz on 4th and 4 with a third-team quarterback than put your kicker you spend a 4th-round pick on to get out there and kick it. And
Yeah.
people say, well, he was 3 for 3. We don't want to mess up his mental state. If that's what it is, we're in
pathetic.
trouble.
Yeah.
I would really love to talk to Kevin Stefanski and just ask him, when you look at training camp, right, we all know you can't keep all these guys. But every other position on this team has competition. What makes Cade York so special that he doesn't at least have to compete against anybody else?
Yeah.
Cade can
The punter didn't either, I don't think. did he?
But like Cade can be your guy, and that's cool. But what makes him so special that he doesn't have to compete?
I don't know. It is
Deshaun's your
odd.
guy.
It is odd.
Everybody else your guy. Deshaun got hit. Everybody else is competing against somebody
Yeah.
but him.
I mean, in fairness, Deshaun's not really competing.
I mean, yeah,
You know,
but
nobody,
you know,
there's no chance anybody can take his job. But I get your point.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
2 people. There are 3 people that don't have competition: the
Nick
punter,
Chubb.
the kicker, and the 2nd to 3rd year quarterback. If you don't know if you got a quarterback yet, and he's in his 2nd to 3rd year, they usually give him a job. It comes with the captain's stripe. And that's why you see all these young guys with a C on. I saw Zach Wilson with a C on last year, and I'm like, well, they're trying to build him up.
Yeah.
He can't have somebody beside him bringing in competition. That's just not what it is. So there are some positions that don't have it, but I do think, McNuggets, you're going to see a lot of 4th down going for it.
Go ahead, Mikey.
You know how we did confidence meters on the show, and we'll bring it back during football season. Before we move on to our next topic, Earl, I'll start with you. We'll go around. What's your confidence meter, 1 through 10, on Cade York right now?
probably about a 4.
G?
3.
I'm with G.
3. So together,
So our high
together
is 4.
we have a 10. Together, we have a 10.
Yeah,
If that doesn't make you
not
shit
good
your
that
pants
we're
as a
averaging
Browns
3
fan,
and a third
something's wrong.
between us.
And see, this is why I do like to bring this up, because the great thing about this show is, like, a lot of y'all don't like it, but I do like it. The fact that Bull does watch other teams or watch another team, I could bounce off the perspective and be like, okay, am I crazy for saying this about the Browns? But I know for a fact that when I'm watching these Bengals play like the Chiefs, I'm watching these games be every single play. Every kick counts. All of them. The extra points, the field goals, all of them. And I'm sitting like, dang, these dudes, and they're not missing. Now, can I sit here and say that I believe Cade York can hit a field goal under any amount of pressure? I can't say that because he's missing them with no pressure.
What's amazing is he made that 58-yarder against Carolina, and we thought we got
one.
it.
We got one. We got one right here.
And like most of the big moments since then, he has not come through.
We made movie posters. We had a nickname competition. We were ready to crown him the
wild.
second coming of LeBron James.
Wild.
Lethal Weapon 3. Legatron 2.0. All
right, Mikey.
We got to move on here. We got 2 more things to get to before the end of the show, and this next one I think is going to take us on a wild ride. Before we do that, I want to remind you guys that myself, Earl, and Anthony have been doing a Behind the Glass podcast every week. I'm not sure what day we're going to do it this week, but it's essentially the show, but we're pulling back the curtains even more than we usually do. Give you some behind-the-scenes stories, talk about the hottest topics of the day, preview some Browns, Cavs, and Guardian stuff, and it has been a lot of fun. We appreciate all the support so far, and hopefully you guys will continue to support us in our future endeavors. This happened last Thursday, what we're going to talk about. But because the Browns played on Thursday, we had so much to react to from the game on Friday, we decided to hold it for Monday. But it is absolutely worth revisiting, and we're going to play the clip. If anyone missed it, and G, I believe you heard it, we have the clip. Earl, I know you tweeted about it. I tweeted about it. Bull, you tweeted about it. Before we play this, G, did you see the Kyle Brant clip? Do you know exactly what we're about to reference?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I
So
watched
for
the whole
anyone out
episode.
there who hasn't heard it, it's about 2.5 minutes. We're going to play that. We're going to react to it because I know we all have some pretty strong thoughts on what Kyle Brant had to say about covering the Cleveland Browns. Steve?
Be completely candid here, cards on the table. I still think the Cleveland Browns are difficult to talk about, let alone hype, because of their quarterback. Look, Deshaun Watson, I believe, did some really creepy things off the field and then got the largest contract in NFL history. and it's part of the conversation. Look no further than the preseason game when the venerable Chris Collinsworth did his best attempt to describe what Deshaun Watson had gone through, chose words that people didn't like to describe it, and he was criticized for it. That's merely just him trying to get the viewer up to speed of what went on in Deshaun Watson's life. I think it's difficult. You have to compartmentalize, and that's our job as broadcasters, and we do it almost every time with Deshaun Watson. It's football, it's in the past, it's all of that. But as you as a human being or an NFL fan, you get to choose who you get to root for and whose jersey you get to buy. So if you're not comfortable buying Deshaun Watson's jersey or rooting for him or hyping him or drafting him on your fantasy team, I think that is part of the Browns' discussion. Maybe it'll become less so as we move on, certainly if they keep winning. But I would also look no further than I think it's difficult for the Browns to talk about Deshaun Watson. Look at the Browns' official Twitter accounts. It's not a lot of their star quarterback with the biggest contract in NFL history. He's there. But, like, if you look at the Bills with Allen or the Chargers with Herbert, it's like our quarterback, and it's the slow motion QB1. And stuff's not there. And I sympathize with those people who have to run that account because it is difficult. And the times they do put Deshaun Watson stuff, the comments are not pretty, and nor should they be. So I feel difficult because I feel there's a lot of good people working for the Browns and a lot of good players, but this is part of the discussion. It's not something you just snap your fingers and say, yeah, I love it, I'm totally in, I love this guy, I love this team. It's very difficult to do. We're going to try to keep it to football, but it's still hard.
Once they blow the whistle, I don't think the players are like, no, wait a second.
I don't think so either, but I think it's more than the media. I think it's the millions and millions of fans.
Yeah.
And the answer to your questions, Jason, is maybe never. Yeah. Maybe you just decide that's not someone who I root for, and that's fine. And I can see this kind of an eye roll factor about it's August, and it's here as a Thursday morning. Why are we dragging this up?
Yeah.
Authenticity. This is what people are talking about. It's very easy to say, I love what they did with the pass rush, and I think all that stuff is fine. What is the elephant in the room? And having an actual real conversation, if you're saying that's not part of the conversation, you're not paying attention. And I don't think we're sitting here saying he shouldn't be playing, he shouldn't be walking the street. It's just like, if you don't want to root for him, I understand why. And it's difficult to talk about the Browns a little bit at this point. What's going to be really interesting is if they start 3-0. And that he looks like the best player in the AFC. And then we'll get to it. But this is not something you just say, well, it's not like a player coming back from an injury or they had a bad season last year. This is a totally different thing with a lot of different people involved. So it's evolving. We're trying to compartmentalize. The answer to the question is why they've been overlooked. They're difficult to talk about.
The first thing when I saw this, guys, on Friday, I saw it or Thursday night, whenever I saw it, was I tried to find out if he had said the same thing about Ben Roethlisberger. First of all, unfortunately, what happens when this clip happens is then it turns into an argument about what Deshaun Watson did or didn't do. For me personally, I have no interest in that conversation. We've talked about that a million times. I have no longer any interest in debating the merits of what Deshaun Watson did or didn't do. However, I think talking about, did Kyle Brant ever go on a rant about how hard it is to talk about the Steelers with what Ben Roethlisberger was accused of? Joe Mixon's been accused of a number of things early before he went to the NFL, and once again recently this has come up. Mixon and his agent are embarrassing themselves with their behavior with the Cincinnati media, which is even softer than our soft Cleveland media. And is he having a hard time talking about the Bengals? No, I don't think he's having a hard time talking about the Bengals. If I go to every team in the NFL, if I go to every business in America, I would guarantee you that 90% of them have at least one employee that has been accused or has done something inappropriate from either a sexual or a physical nature. That's the way it is. I don't say that to excuse any of it. I say it because that's the reality of the situation. So I just think Kyle Brant, he talks about being genuine, or it's part of the story. Everybody knows the story already. Nobody watching a Browns Commanders preseason game needs the update on Deshaun Watson's off-the-field stuff. He has the right to talk about it, but don't say he has to, Chris Collinsworth, because everybody knows about it. Everybody. My wife, who is not much of a sports fan, said to me, we were talking about Deshaun Watson yesterday. She said to me, what position does he play? Okay? Because my wife doesn't pay attention to, she likes baseball. She doesn't really pay attention to football. All right? Even when she watches the show or listens to me on the radio and now the podcast, she doesn't know what the hell is going on when it comes to football. The only thing she don't know what position Deshaun Watson plays, but she's heard the off the field stuff because she's heard me talk about it. She heard other people talk about it. That doesn't need to be explained to anybody anymore. I just think my beef with Kyle Brant is I don't think he's being genuine here, and I like Kyle Brant a lot. I like that show. I like Peter Schrager. I like Kyle Brant. I think Kyle Brant's really funny. I just think he dropped the ball here. I feel like he, like so many others in the media, feel like they have to qualify any conversation with Deshaun Watson about talking about the off-the-field stuff. And I think most football fans, not just Browns fans, don't care anymore. Like it or not. Like what Deshaun Watson, whatever you feel about him and what he did, you have the right to feel whatever the hell you want. You don't like Deshaun Watson? You're entitled. That's fine. Do you. But I don't think most football fans care about off-the-field stuff, whether it's him or anybody else. They want to hear about football. That's how I see it.
I mean, for me, the beef I got with Kyler behind this is the selective morality, right? As you alluded to, first of all, let me preface my comments by saying everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But you can look across the NFL, all 32 teams, and find somebody from ownership to anybody that's on the cleaning staff that has a sketchy situation or has had a sketchy situation. Like you said, boy, it doesn't stop you from talking about them. In a tweet that I put out, I referenced the Alvin Kamara situation. And this is why I call it selective morality. It amazes me how 3 men jump a man, damn near beat him to death, put him in a hospital, severely injured, charges come about, and yet that story did not get the same national coverage as the Deshaun Watson story. We know why it didn't, because Deshaun Watson's situation involved 20-plus accusations from women. And the selective morality is, okay, so it's okay to damn near beat him.
Although it is also because he's a quarterback and he got traded.
It's damn near okay. So basically you're saying to me,
yeah,
it's okay to beat a man half to death and it's no big deal because that's a male. As if into saying violence against males is okay, but accusations against women are not okay. You got to keep the same energy across the board, right? This moral code about violence and things being disruptive and things that makes it uneasy to talk about. Kyle Brant was on Good Morning Football when the Cleveland Browns signed Kareem Hunt. You didn't have no problem talking about the Cleveland Browns when there was video evidence of what Kareem Hunt has done. So my thing is, you can't sit up here and try to punish 52 other players on a roster because you have a personal bias. And in my opinion, he has a personal bias against Deshaun Watson. You got to keep that same energy across the board because, like I said, selective morality. You're basically screaming to me it's okay for a male to go through something at the hands of an NFL player. That's all right. That's cool. No big deal. He's a running back. Yeah, Alvin Kamara's a running back. That's a man. No big deal. But because Deshaun Watson is a quarterback and we're talking about females, all of a sudden your moral code is raised to this height. And then you keep bringing up his money. Like last I checked, he's like the 6th or the 7th highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now, not the highest. UG.
Well, I've tried to dissect this thing in multiple different layers, but we'll try to come at it at a different layer. Since the beginning of time, since this game has started, quarterbacks have been known to have a certain characteristic. When you are African American coming up and you was playing quarterback, they'll shift you to any other position but quarterback. They say, well, you don't have the people skills. You don't have the temperament. Maybe you're too good of an athlete. Maybe you can't digest the playbook. Maybe you just don't have what it takes to be the face of a franchise. They've done that since the beginning of time. That's not a thing. Even when you go to the combine, they stopped having to ask these guys Wonderlic questions because the questions were culturally inappropriate, right? They had to stop saying, hey, is your mother a crackhead? How can you say that, right? In these interviews. Fast forward to where we are right now. The reality of it is every single quarterback is the CEO of an organization. They are the face of 32 top-notch franchises that are Fortune 500. When they say and mention how much money he's making, that comes from a place we're saying, we don't even think you should even be making that type of money anyway. You just now got to the point where we started now interacting and putting black quarterbacks in a position to be the face of organizations. And to be truthful, there's a lot of people that didn't like that. Some people that might not really still like that, but if you're really talented, they'll overlook at it. But the second you mess up is the second they put you right back in your place. You lucky we let you be a quarterback. You could have been playing receiver with your homeboy from down the street. When you mention the 238, you consistently mention that. They understand what it is. Capitalism is here for all of us to see. They tell you when you go to the voting box, capitalism. We don't like socialism, giving away free stuff. We don't like communism. We don't like that. We like capitalism. Okay, well, good. Well, why is it capitalism is good for every single business owner out here? You don't even want to give out minimum wage increases because you don't want regulations. You don't want anything. You want to make as much money as you possibly can, except when it comes to maybe a certain demographic of people. Why you got a problem with 238? We don't hear 238 with Herbert. We don't hear 238 with Big Ben. We never even understood how much these guys were making. But when he got in here and they started talking about 238, they saying to themselves, you don't deserve that. We don't even like how you even representing our era. Because the only people that get guaranteed contracts is the quarterbacks. So that's how they view the situation. If you look at it, and if we could just get rid of the conversation of 238, everybody understands and have been through economics. The Cleveland Browns didn't pay him 238 based on his talent. The Cleveland Browns paid him 238 based on the market value of a franchise quarterback and their track record of not being able to identify and get a quarterback. They swung and missed on Baker. They had no other options. They had a team that was ready now. It has nothing to do with whether Deshaun is worth 238. You're paying for the fact that you couldn't get a quarterback. Now that you got it, you have to pay a premium. Everyone understands that. If I want a plane ticket in 3 months, I could get it for $55, cheap as dirt, right? But if I want a red eye and get on the plane right now and go to Italy, that's going to cost me $2,500. It's economics. It's the supply and demand. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are basically upset the fact that they feel that a person who is in that upper echelon has put a stain on the quarterback position by being alleged doing what he did and being rewarded for doing what he said he was doing. At the end of the day, that's not the way life works. That's the way they do it. And they playing dumb if they act like they don't know what's going on.
I don't understand. I mean, I know everybody brings up the money all the time. In the context of what Kyle Brant was talking about, bringing up the money doesn't even make any sense.
It didn't even make sense at all.
Because if Jimmy Garoppolo was accused of the exact same things that Deshaun Watson is, and he's making $50 million or whatever the hell he's making, would you have brought, it wouldn't be any less awful, the accusations, based on the money. To me, it's like two totally separate
The money
issues.
has nothing to do with...
The money has zero to do with what you're talking about.
Then
Are you more bothered by watching the Browns because he's making more money?
But that's not truthful, though, Bull. When you go back to this summer, Lamar Jackson hasn't done anything to anybody. But every single time you turn the TV on, it was, he's not worth that money. He's not worth that money. He's not getting that money. Let me ask, that's so crazy to me because they say, well, if you weren't like Deshaun Watson, we wouldn't count your pockets. But that's not a lot. We seen a guy in Lamar Jackson who wanted to negotiate his own deal, who has never done anything outside the bounds of anything wrong. And people, the Kyle Brant, everybody on TV, hey, he's so dumb. Why would he let his mom do that? He's costing himself money. Lamar Jackson isn't really even that good anyway. Now, all of a sudden, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, listen, that's a couple people in a row you really counting checks with. I didn't see the same thing with Herbert. I didn't see the same thing with Allen. I didn't see the same thing with the regular traditional way that you go about doing it. Anytime if you are a African-American quarterback, they tell you better do it the way Brady did it. If you ain't doing it like Brady, if you're not doing it like the Mannings, you're ruffling feathers. Calm that down and stand in line because guess what? There's a lot of your brethren up here, these running backs and receivers, they're not getting guaranteed contracts. So for you getting a guaranteed deal, there's a set of standards that we need you to live by.
And you know what's so crazy?
Before you go on real quick, G, and only I'm telling you this because a lot of what you just said, I totally agree with. It's 230, not 238. And when we post social clips, I want to make sure we got the right number because you know how social clips work.
Yeah.
And you can make the best point in the world, and it'll be like, it's 232, not 238. This
So-
is the idiot. So I'm just telling you, future reference. It's not 238. It's 230. Earl, all you.
All right, so something else he said, and it kind of ties into what G was saying, but boy, I think it was like last week, a couple weeks ago, we was going back and forth about, keeping that same energy. One of the things he said in that clip, maybe it'll be easier to talk about if the Browns are winning.
Right.
And this is after he had talked about the money. And this is why I feel so strongly about people keeping that same energy, because the information didn't change, right? The information about Deshaun Watson to this
Right.
date is the same. So why all of a sudden does it become easier down the road if the Browns are winning to talk about Deshaun Watson and the Browns,
Yeah,
right?
if he's being real. Now, I
That-
thought
that
he was
means he's
alluding
being
to
fake.
maybe other fans. But
that's just the
Yeah.
example to go back to
Yeah.
a conversation we had a couple weeks ago. That's why I feel so strongly about that, because none of the information about Deshaun Watson has changed. Everything is what it is, right? But to me, he comes off as a man that has a personal bias against Deshaun Watson. I think he believes the accusations against him. I think he's frustrated that this man had those type of accusations against him, and then he got that type of money, $230 million over 5 years, right?
Right.
So he's pissed off about it. He feels some type of way, and because of him being our quarterback, the rest of the team is uneasy to talk about. But let Deshaun Watson go out here and ball out this year like crazy. Let him actually live up to the contract. Let's say he actually does everything that Browns fans want us to do. All of a sudden, why Kyle Brant is it easier now to talk about the Browns than Deshaun Watson? The information
I
didn't
think
change.
if he does that, then it's fair to call him out on that.
Yeah.
I mean, if all of a sudden he's waxing poetic about Deshaun Watson, but I think fans would even I get what you're saying, but I think our fans would want everybody to stop saying that anyway, because our fans don't want to hear that negative stuff. And there you go. Now, Patrick Mahomes, nobody talks about his money.
No.
To be fair.
Well, here there's I don't even want to. I don't even want to go into that dynamic,
Okay.
right?
All right,
I just want to. Like it's. I just said there's a difference between Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick, like you got to think about it like this. Once again, don't rock the boat. We don't care. Like it comes down to that, right? Look, think about it. We even heard from Kyler Murray. He don't read his iPad. I said, at what point in time did he got a contract coming up? All of a sudden, we got to put in this contract that if he don't read his iPad, that he not going to be eligible for all this money. It's like, wow, where did that clause come from?
Now, also, listen, race is a part of everything. It's
Jesus.
a factor all the time. There's no doubt about it. It's not the only factor.
No.
People have shit on Kirk Cousins a lot for the money he's made, right? That has happened. He's been, he doesn't deserve this money. He don't win when it matters.
But I didn't hear that push when Kirk Cousins got that. When Kirk Cousins got that guaranteed deal, the consensus was good for him, good for Kirk. He had to sit behind RG3.
I think I disagree with you a little bit on Lamar Jackson, because I feel like with Lamar Jackson, there's a lot of people in the media that are afraid to criticize him at all. That if anybody criticizes Lamar Jackson, there are a lot of people. There's always going to be some people that think he don't deserve it.
I agree with you.
But I think Lamar Jackson gets plenty of love overall.
Well, we talk about his play on the field.
Yeah.
We talk about play.
Yeah.
What we talking about here is contracts and the way you're perceived with these contracts.
Because remember, the perception was, you're right. He does get a lot of love until it was time for him to get paid.
See, but
now he's a running quarterback. Now he's a quarterback who can't really throw the ball.
There's always going to be some. Listen, I don't think Lamar Jackson is as good as some other people think. Like, I like Lamar Jackson, but I don't think he's as good as Mahomes or Burrow or even Herbert or Allen. I don't think he is.
That's fine.
I don't think he is. I think he's in that next group. But I think there's a lot of. I do think the majority. I mean, I don't know. We don't have exact numbers. Nobody's keeping a chart on this. But my impression is that the majority of national media members that cover the NFL thought Lamar got what he deserved, and it was a fair contract. I feel like that's the case. Mike, you watch a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, I think It was weird because he held out, and then the initial discussions were, well, is he worth more money than the top guys?
Right. But
If
we know the next guy always gets more money
and that's
when
my
you're
point.
at that
Yeah, yeah.
level. And yes, race certainly plays a role. When Bill Polian said, "Oh, I don't think Lamar Jackson
He's
is
a
a
running
quarterback."
back. That was
If Lamar
horseshit.
Jackson were white with the same athletic ability,
He wouldn't say that.
he would never have said that. Ever. Never. And so, of course, stop being phonies and say, "Oh, leave race out of it." First of all, we don't bring up race all the time. We bring it up once in a while because it is part of the conversation. And it's part of every conversation. It's not the only part of the conversation, but it certainly is. And when it comes to quarterbacks, it's been a huge part of the conversation. Fortunately now, it's not what it used to be, but it doesn't mean it's perfect.
And Lamar Jackson the last 2 years, G, and this is where I think part of the split on the Lamar Jackson contract talks have been, in the last 2 seasons, he's thrown 31 touchdowns and 20 interceptions.
Yeah,
in total.
I mean, I get on him on the field all the time.
Yeah.
I get on. See, this is the thing too, right? There's the way the game works is no one comes out and there outwardly be like, I don't like you because of A, B, and C, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. That's not. No one is that dumb in this industry to do that.
Some people. Well, not this industry.
Unless it's a hot mic, right?
Yeah.
But here's so to think about this, right? People will say this, and I just give you this because, and people say, why you bring up the owners all the time? Well, there's no black owners, majority owners. So all I have to do is I have to compare and contrast. So I'm looking at it. They always say you were rewarded. You were rewarded. You were rewarded. They use that all the time with his $230 million, right, Mike McNuggets?
230.
230. He was rewarded. So let me ask you a question. So when Donald Sterling got his team taken away, right, for very bad things, racial comments, all that stuff.
Yeah.
When he sold his team, did he sell it for less or more than he paid for it?
Way more.
2, 3-fold.
Yeah.
Was he rewarded?
Yes.
Okay. When Daniel Snyder had to sell his team, NFL franchise, because he was sexist, misogynist, had all kind of
Piece
stuff.
of shit.
He all that.
Yeah.
When he sold it, did he get more or less?
Way more.
Okay.
Suns owner.
Suns owner, more or less. So
Yeah.
when you say that, and you sit here and you act like you on a moral soapbox, what happens is people like me be like, well, listen, honestly, you didn't really think this through because nobody is sitting on those stages being like, he was rewarded. They should have
That's
just
right.
stripped him and gave him what he was owed.
And to that point, did Kyle Brant have a problem talking about the Commanders the last few years?
No.
That guy's a real piece of shit.
Yeah, no. So him. It's
disingenuous.
It's disingenuous, and he's grandstanding to be. I'm just keeping it real. No, you're not keeping it real. What you're saying is, you understand how this game works. You get paid for what your talent level is, or what people are willing to pay you. At the end of the day, there was a whole bunch of people that work for ESPN, right? They got let go, right? And you look at how much they get paid. You think any of them was worth that money?
No.
and they got it. And
Mike Greenberg makes $6 million a year. He's awful. So Mike Greenberg, how is that guy getting $6 million a year?
So the people that never played, that ain't never done nothing, can make more than the people that they rat about.
There's no salary cap in business, G.
Huh?
It only exists in sports. There's
But
no salary cap in business.
We got to be fine with that.
I'll take it. Because guess what? I don't count their checks. All I count is when you're being disingenuous. And guess what? We are professionals just like you are. If they got a game on TV, I don't have to say Robert Kraft's name. I don't have to say Roethlisberger's name. I can look at what's happening on the field and just take it for face value and merit. Break it down.
There's a reason why hockey bad guys are called goons and basketball bad guys are referred to as thugs. There's a reason for that.
There is.
Yeah, and like I said, man, to me, it's a selective morality based on a personal bias, right? Not even necessarily about race, because again, there's video evidence of what Kareem Hunt did, and I know for a fact I remember watching.
And that was with a woman also.
Yeah,
and we're not dry snitching.
Exactly.
We're not
so
trying to point out.
All I'm saying is, I remember at that time he had no problem talking about the Cleveland Browns.
I've never heard him say that before about any other team.
Yeah, so it's like
maybe he has, but I don't remember him ever saying it.
Like why all of a sudden now talking about this entire organization is the hugest problem in the world.
Well, Earl, you're a producer. Mike, you're a producer. Guess what? He understands the analytics just like y'all do. If you say Deshaun Watson, you're guaranteed 8,000 views.
Dude, I got over talking about this on my podcast Friday, I got over 5,200 YouTube views in 48 hours.
That means we got to beat that.
Go ahead.
So shout out to the people out there. We got to beat Bulls Podcast. It is now direct competition. We got one more quick thing before we get to our softball recap. That was a really interesting conversation and really in-depth. I appreciate all three of your guys' insights on that. Hopefully the audience enjoyed it as much as I did. We mentioned the Fanatics link earlier. I want to mention it again. You need swaggy Browns gear for the upcoming season. If you're going to buy it, go to fanatics.com/UCSS. Help us out in the back end. We appreciate it. And trust us, the selection of Browns gear on fanatics.com is elite. Before we do softball, we got 5 minutes for our 32 and 32 series as we continue on. Today is number 13, and it is Grant Delpit. Earl, I know you mentioned Grant Delpit earlier in the show as a guy you hadn't heard glowing reviews of from camp. Not necessarily bad, but hasn't been a standout like we've heard some other guys be referred to as. So what are your expectations for Grant Delpit in his first year in Jim Schwartz's defense in a contract year as a second-round pick out of LSU?
So even though I've not heard much, good, bad, or indifferent, my expectations for Grant Delpit has not changed. I think that on the defensive side of the ball, he can be the Cleveland Browns 2023 breakout player of the year. You see him start to make more plays towards the end of the season. I thought that, even though Joe Woods didn't do much to change what was going on defensively, that, when we would go back and watch the tapes, you seen Grant Delpit playing closer to the line of scrimmage than he had played at any point throughout the season. And the result of that was, interceptions, deflected passes, forced fumbles, etc. And so when you hear other players in this defensive scheme led by Jim Schwartz talk about the freedom that they have or being able to be in position to play naturally to more what they do well, I think that Grant Delpit is another guy who's going to benefit from playing for Jim Schwartz, and I think ultimately the Cleveland Browns will benefit because he's going to make plays. He might even score a touchdown or two this year.
Grant Delpit, G?
And listen, I would like to see him. I would have liked to see him a little bit in the preseason, but look, to me, I want to go on record. I want to be on record. I think this is going to be one of the most dominant defensive lines that I've seen in a very long time. I think the defensive as a whole is going to be one of the best defenses I've seen in a very long time. And it's just because the level of I would say the level of freedom that they have to go out there and make plays. I was in a system where in high school, I had over 100 tackles as a defensive end. I said, bro, they look back at the stats and say, bro, you're lying. That's out of you can't have 100 tackles as a defensive lineman. I said, oh, yes, you can when you tell the defensive lineman, go do whatever you want to up front, and we'll worry about it on the back end. And usually what happens is on the back end, we had guys like Mike Doss, they got 10 interceptions. 10 picks is crazy. I didn't even know they was throwing the ball that much. But what happens is when guys start to play hungry and loose like that, and that synergy starts to build, and it all comes together, Grant Delpit could be the beneficiary of that. I liked him coming out of LSU. I thought he had a bounce back year last year, and I thought that he definitely outplayed JJ3.
Yeah.
I thought he was probably the most consistent guy in the secondary last year, besides Mark Emerson. So for me, I think he can have a great season, and if he is going to have a great season, they're going to be a fast defense and a fun defense to watch.
By the way, G gets a lot of his information from the Parcheesi Club that he's in with Jet. You guys enjoyed my video on Friday?
That was funny. That was very funny.
That was hilarious.
That was crazy. I was like, we're the same Parcheesi Club. We got to get Jack Conklin together. He didn't show up last week.
He said, Earl, you lost your damn mind.
Yeah.
I love you, but you just lost your damn mind.
Because I feel like you were ranking them based on how good the player was. Left tackle's most important.
You know what it is? I got the same energy for Jed Wills that you have for Miles Straw.
I hear you. But in the end,
That's what it is.
And when you explained it, I understood. I'm like, he just don't think he good.
right. I don't think that
I
good
just don't think
either,
he's
but
good.
his position is important.
His position is one of the top three most important positions in the NFL. It's just that when it comes to the actual player playing left tackle, I feel as strongly about him as you feel about Miles Straw.
Man, I didn't know he was that bad. I think he's not as bad as Miles Straw is in baseball.
But what do you think about
Grant Delpit? Grant Delpit, I was very impressed with the second half of last year. To me, he had been a huge disappointment with the Browns until the second half of last year. And I thought he really stepped up his game. He had a big impact the second half of the season. And I have extremely high hopes for him. I'm with G. I have extremely high hopes for the defense, too. Now, we got to see it because we've had a lot of high hopes over the last few years for this team, and it hasn't happened. But the defense is low. The defense definitely has more talent than it's had as long as I've been covering the Browns. And I think Grant Delpit found his place on this team last year. It is a little weird that he hasn't played much, but I think I think you guys did good with Grant Delpit. I think
I like
he's
Grant.
in the right spot.
I like Grant Delpit.
Important player.
Nice and easy.
Yeah.
Final fast food of the day before we get to our softball review. If you are not already a member of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, you have two options to do so, and I think for football season it'll be very well worth a little bit of money out of your pocket. For $1.99, you become a Starters tier member. That gets you some custom loyalty badges and emojis in the chat. For $4.99, you become a Coaches tier member, and that gets you special overtime content every day, at least 10 minutes of an extra topic, or the guys just kind of shooting the crap, talking about whatever's on their mind. It is worth it. Starters tier, Coaches tier. We appreciate you. On September 1st, we'll be gifting away some memberships as well, so that should be fun. Check it out. And
by the way, guys, you have to, real quick, you have to, I sent you guys a picture. You got to see, this is Dodger Stadium. Look at this. With the hurricane in L.A.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's like flooded all around.
It is crazy. Now, the Dodger Stadium is like kind of, like it's, you know, most baseball stadiums, you walk in and then you got to, you know, walk up. Well, there you got to walk down. It's,
man, I just,
this weather stuff.
like, come on, man, guys, don't we? And then yet and still, we tell y'all, yeah, global warming is a thing.
Yeah.
I had to look this up.
I was told on Facebook that it's not a real thing.
I have never in my life seen a hurricane on the West Coast.
It's crazy.
It's
I
almost
it was a mistake
impossible.
when I heard about that.
It's impossible.
I know. It's too depressing.
All right,
Mikey,
so
softball. First of all, listen. I'm aware that I'm fat, okay? But some of these people, oh, Bull, you're going to have a heart attack. Maybe I will have a heart attack. Maybe I'll be dead in 2 years.
We're not putting that out
there. Go
there.
fuck yourself. You know what I'm saying?
We're not.
Go F yourself.
Yeah, F yourself.
Go F yourself if
Nah,
you're making fat comment. I can be mean. I can be tough. I don't go around calling people fat. I know I'm fat. Don't have to be an asshole about it on Twitter.
Hey, before y'all say anything else, boy, you're not gonna have a heart attack.
We
You
don't like that.
know personally how I feel about that, man. I don't want to see nothing happen to you.
And I know you think I don't feel like I've let down my freaking family every day. I wish it were easier. I wish I could lose weight. This is a lifelong struggle. So go F yourself. I don't need your shit.
Anybody, man, who feel it's necessary, man, to like make somebody else feel bad just to put themselves up, that's weak.
Losers.
That's weak.
Thank you. Sorry.
So,
go. Let's see these videos. Come on.
So let's get to the game. So first and foremost, Bull, we're going to start with you. You are first up. We have individual clips from the game. G, we're going to play them. You and Earl were not there. The person who said I'm racist on Twitter said tag Tyvis, Brad, Earl, and G in the tweet. Well, guess what? They weren't at the game.
Well, next year we're going to have a UCSS team.
By the way, we were invited, right? I couldn't do it, right? So, but next year I will be in.
Yeah, we got to have you there.
We will be with UCSS.
It was a fun day.
WKYC.
Even though the teams even though Stephanie screwed up the teams. I love Stephanie. She's awesome, but she screwed up the teams. They were completely unfair teams. Go ahead, Mikey.
So, Steve, let's take the first one. This is Bull in his second. We don't have video from every at-bat, but we got Director Steve also. Shout out Director Steve for getting all this
You got my
video.
hit? I got 2 hits.
We got a hit right here, Bull.
All right, let me see.
Whenever you're ready, Steve.
Man, it's hard watching myself, honestly.
Hey, that's a hit though.
I got a base hit though.
And let's see, Steve, take tag board here.
And you
Get some
swung
more
at it
swings
over here.
Who was that? Me?
Oh, they got the catcher.
I didn't strike out though.
Catcher
I
cam.
swung and missed at 1 pitch.
Oh, that's a shot.
That was batting practice.
This was in warm-ups. This was me and Bull just getting some cuts in beforehand.
There you go. I was picking up my back foot a couple of my swings. I didn't even realize I was doing that. That's terrible form. That's why I'm not getting enough power. My back foot's coming up. It's got to be because my left knee is not great. And
which one is your Achilles that you tore?
The left. But that doesn't factor anymore. But my left knee was a little sore. You know, when you're heavy, you're gonna have some sore stuff.
They say why you ain't play? I said, bro, I'm way too out of shape for that.
But I did all right. I made every play at first base.
You were 2 for 4, played great defense at first base.
Hey, I listen. I thought you was gonna swing, man. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I thought you was gonna look terrible.
No, thank you.
Good job.
And shout out to reporter Steve. He wasn't director Steve yesterday. He was reporter Steve.
He was Johnny on the spot.
Who was out
with the videos.
Hopefully, you can find these videos. They're all ordered, numbered. Steve. It's literally the next video. It's literally the next one.
I'm still bothered by that.
And we have we interviewed Bull coming off the field to end the game. Steve, if you want to take the interview full, take a listen.
I'm hot. I'm sweaty. I'm pissed off about a softball game. That's how insane I am. The teams are unfair. We got screwed by Stephanie. I'm really agitated about it. I shouldn't. If I was a normal human being, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, it's just a company softball game. I'm mad at myself because I choked last inning, first and second. I tried to hit a liner down the right field line. Instead, I pulled the ground ball for an easy out. So I'm in a bad mood right now. But we just had a good inning, and the game's never over till the fat lady sings.
So game was on the line, first and second, and you went Miles Straw.
I grounded out. That was my biggest at bat in the third inning. It was a close game at that point.
You had 4 at bats?
I had 4 at bats. And then my last at bat, we rallied in the last inning. Now, the umpire was making a few calls in our favor. But in the last inning, we were down 10-3. We made it 10-8, and I came up in the last inning, and I got a hit. Now, in fairness, my knee was really barking at that point. So I wasn't the first one. That's why I did it. AJ, Jason's son, ran for me. I hit a hard ground ball, but I would have been out if I were running myself.
Right.
And he beat it out on a bang-bang play. That made it 10-9, and then our next batter popped out to end it. So we had made a big comeback.
I might do that. Next year.
You got to play next year. We got to play UCSS versus WKYC.
We will. And the next guy on our list is someone who comes between both of those. It's one Jay Crawford. Before we take any of Jay's videos, let me just preface this with this. I parked right next to Jay as we're walking into the stadium. I get out the car. Jay looks me in the face. He goes, McNuggets, I hit an over-the-fence home run in my game yesterday. I pitched a 2-hitter. I got my baseball fix in. This is just fun. I'm not taking this competitively at all.
Yeah, not true.
His wife looked at him and goes, bullshit, Jay, I know you. As soon as Jay stepped on the field, it was ultimate competitive Jay, and he was quite salty.
Yeah.
As we say, that was cap.
Yeah.
That was cap.
That was cap. That was 100% cap.
That was cap.
Jay was full of shit. He was just he and I were pissed off the whole game because the team sucked, and he had to pitch because we put a guy out there to pitch. He couldn't even throw it over the plate.
This was Jay's first double. Jay smoked that one to deep left.
Yep.
He's running hard, too.
Yep.
He slid. Jay slid at one point.
Wait till you see Anthony slide to second base where
we don't have that, unfortunately.
So you don't have that?
That was Director Steve. And then that was Jay's. This is Jay's second double. You go right to the next one here, Steve. Jay, from different angles, steps up in the box, rips it. Kind of waddles. A little bit of a penguin run there from Jay.
He's a little bow-legged.
I mean, Jay's almost 60, man.
And
he moves good. No, he played very well. Jay,
for a guy who's
and he slid. And he hit the pop-up slide on y'all.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. You can't be making fun of his run, Mike.
No. Listen, Jay played very well. We also caught up with Jay.
He pitched pretty well for us. Like, we didn't have anybody else that could pitch.
He was throwing real pitches.
We had a freaking shortstop, but it was a lefty, for crying out loud.
Let's listen from Jay. This is as he was leaving the field as well.
I don't know how the teams got allocated, but to give you an idea of what we were dealing with, I went to all 13 of our players, and I said, can you pitch? And the answer was the same. Pitch? I've never played softball. We have 12 virgin softball players here. This is an uphill climb.
That was mostly true, but not completely true.
They set y'all up.
We really had nobody else that could pitch, so Jay had to pitch, even though he was our best fielder.
They set you up for the woo.
Yeah, they did.
We had nobody. Like, we had who was playing third base again for us?
Matt Wentz or Wentz No, Matt Wentz was the big guy. Matt Wentz was good. He's third baseman.
Right, he was good.
The weather guy.
I was good at first.
Jay was really good.
Jay was good. Nobody else on our team could play the field at all.
I'm pleading the fifth. I'm taking one out of Earl's playbook.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we move on, what do you guys think of Jay's swing? Earl G?
I've
Good-looking cut?
I mean, I've never seen somebody step up.
It's softball. It's slow pitch softball. You do that a lot.
You know, sometimes in softball, it's all about getting your right pitch that you can elevate.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get anxious because you think every pitch looks so good.
Right.
So, you know, I've seen it, man.
Aaron ended up playing. He was swinging and missing a lot because he was not used to that slow pitch.
We got a couple more things to get to. We'll go to me next.
Yeah.
Let off the game.
Yeah, you smoked that one.
Yeah, we'll just let the video play. Let the
Did
video play.
McNuggets hit a home run? Did McNuggets turn it on?
Yeah, he did.
His hat! Go!
I don't know why you stopped at third. I don't know what he was doing there.
The ball stood on an inch. That thing would have rolled 700 feet.
Hey, McNuggets turned this. McNuggets call himself turning it on.
No, I thought Anthony was about to steal on him coming to home plate. I seen him flinch and everything.
I thought about it.
Should have taken him out. Anthony got beat up in this game.
Yeah, we're Anthony's next on the list, so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Steve, let's take the next video. Let's play the next one. Oh, what's this? An alternate angle of my home run? We have to watch again?
God.
Oh, God.
You got take two.
Oh, God. We'll just see this again one more
It
time.
rolled to the.
Who let Mike edit
Who's
this?
this sister? Who's this?
Yeah, I was just about to say, man, who the hell let
outfields
Mike
were horrible.
edit this video?
Outfield was tough. We're not going to lie. But they hustled. They hustled.
Great jerseys, though, right?
Jerseys were pretty cool.
They were awesome.
Steve, I had
Great
the
field.
next at bat. This is off Jay. I only
So
put this one
hot.
in here because Jay was pitching. So if Jay ever says he can get me out, I'm officially 1-for-1 against one Jay Crawford.
There we go.
Little rope to left.
Who's that shortstop?
Should've
That's
been caught.
That's an E.
And last but not least, I had to leave early, so I did a little
Embarrassing.
exit interview as well. So Steve, you want to take the interview before we
That's
get to
E5,
Anthony and
bro.
Jason? You know, there's a lot of chatter from Jay Crawford and the ball on that side, and it's got to be tough to be down 8-1 head into the seventh. I have to leave actually to go drive my friend to the airport. I have so much faith in the guys out there to bring home the dub that they don't need. They don't need. I mean, 3 for 3, played pretty stellar defense, minus one minor mishap, but hit a home run. I did what I did. I came here, I executed, and now it's on my guys to close it out. Legends for life.
By the way, Mike, I played a better first base than you did. By the
He
way.
said legends for
the
life.
You made an error.
I did have an error. I had one error.
I had no errors.
I did. Anthony's up next, and you can see the error because Anthony's single that's on camera should have been an out, but I dropped the ball. So
I
I
almost
see
got
it.
taken out by this one, coaching first, I think.
I was talking to Bull as this was happening.
Yeah.
Hey, Anthony is kind of faster than I thought.
Anthony was
wide
moving.
turn.
I didn't know where the bases were.
Yeah.
I forgot that they were shorter.
Anthony was moving.
Anthony
Dude, Anthony was playing catcher. I'm like, so Mike Polk made, do you have the catch he made?
No.
Mike Polk made the best play of the day. He made a diving catch with his bare hand playing catcher.
Oh,
He dove forward, caught the ball. So I'm like, Anthony, you got to dive. So Anthony was diving the rest of the game. I felt bad. He got beat up because I was yelling at
Anthony
him.
got little kid speed. Like
Yeah, he doesn't. You're right.
Like you have a little kid, they be unorthodox, no form.
Yeah.
But they be moving a little bit.
That's right. Anthony has that. G
You can
nailed
take
that
this,
perfectly.
take tag board, Steve. This is the other Anthony swing.
This was
Anthony
warm ups.
did good.
This was the first time I swung a bat since Little League.
And you left-handed too.
I was the only lefty hitter yesterday.
Yeah, I don't bat left-handed.
Kill that.
I mean, you have to say that Jason Lloyd was the biggest disappointment of
We're going to
all.
get to Jason
Okay.
next, but we have Anthony's exit interview first. With his girlfriend. Are we allowed to say her name? Yeah. Bree.
That fifth is kind of far.
So we're here with the Downtown Dynamos. It is 8-2. I don't even know what inning it is. The ump forgot what inning it was.
It is the top of the sixth.
Top of the sixth. We are struggling on offense. We are struggling on defense. Our middle infield got nothing going on. I'm tired.
It's hot.
All right, and let's get to the one that we stayed, I would say the worst for last in this case.
Yeah.
No context needed. Jason, who says he played softball,
Yes.
says he played
The
baseball.
most
Steve,
experienced softball player.
just take this video, and then it loops at the end because it's so good.
Come on, Jason. No. Jason, you got to go back and then come in. Back and then in. And why is there a shortstop?
Dude, that shortstop was the best player.
And why is there a third baseman? Where did the girl come from?
That's Stephanie.
That's Steph.
She
There was
playing
like 17
we had like
players in the
82
field.
Fielders.
We had a special interview with Jason. Not me.
Wait, you didn't get a strikeout?
You're looking at me like I was playing in the game, Bull.
Jason
But
Lloyd struck out. How do
we
you not
have a
that?
special interview with Jason here. Steve, take it.
No, it wasn't, man. It could happen to anybody. I was 6 years old.
I should have called it. I was waiting to hear someone call me off. Nobody called me off. It's a baseball mitt and a heavy right in the middle.
I understand. So, but you, when you actually went in there, I mean, you went in there, you own that. Like, you went in, so you can't act like you can't blame somebody for not calling you off. Like,
Well, the play, Mike, is you go back until somebody calls you off and then you peel out of the way.
Okay, but no one called you off, so that makes it your ball.
Yes.
So it's your
And I should've caught
responsibility.
it.
Yeah,
Should've caught it.
pretty routine fly ball.
Should've caught it.
Now, does it hurt anymore that was in front of your child and in front of your wife?
They already didn't have any respect for me.
So they already knew what you were.
It can't go lower.
All right, so this won't be something that we're working on in therapy for a long time or anything like that. This is the least of their worries.
No, they didn't like me before.
I could totally see it. All right, well, hey, we got one more in. Let's get through this. All right.
And Jason did have a single, but Steve skipped the single. We don't want to give Jason any love. Go to the pop out.
Okay. Yeah, he popped out. He struck out. He's the only one of the team that struck out, I think.
Oh, bro. Oh, my gosh. Who caught that?
Jay.
That's disrespectful. Because Jay's the closest person in your tax bracket.
I think for UCSS, Jason and Bree were the only two to strike out.
Oh, Bree struck out. That's true.
And these are the updated hits leaderboards of the UCSS summer softball circuit. Myself and Jay had 3 hits yesterday. Bull, Anthony, Polk each had 2. We don't know how many Jason had. We know he had 1, but we're subtracting the others for striking out and dropping a pop-up. And Tyvis, we all know what happened when he played in the OSU softball game earlier this summer. So Tyvis at the bottom all by his lonesome.
Hey, I'm ready to go. Tomorrow, you going to get a big influx of power, athleticism.
We'll see you on overtime.
2024, G. Bush returns.
I think.